Hello and welcome to the Fumble Sports pregame show for NFL Week 17. Happy New Year to you and yours. I hope 2023 is off to a wonderful start. It certainly ended, 2022 ended on a crazy note with a lot of crazy college football action yesterday, but we put that in the rearview mirror. We're all about the NFL today. Game picks, total plays, player prop bets, and of course, fantasy football championship matchups. I hope all of you are ready for a very exciting NFL Week 17. Make sure you're throwing your questions in the chat. We'll answer all of your questions this morning. Don't worry, whether again it's game plays, player prop bets, total plays, and of course, fantasy football action. Make sure you're joining us at Fumble Sports. We will be live for the next 3 hours, right up until kickoff of the 1 p.m. games, answering all of your fantasy questions. You're going to want to get your fantasy questions in, your gambling questions in. We're making sure we're helping you cash tickets and win your matchups this week in NFL Week 17. Really excited about it. Let's jump right into it. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. And as always, once we hit a 5,000 like benchmark, every time we do, we'll do another quick poll. So our first quick poll of the day will start at 5,000 likes. Make sure you're hitting that like button so we get there. Let me jump right into the chat again. Happy New Year to all of you. Beer Garden Sports, Happy New Year to you. High Rise 99.99, Cam Akers or Christian Kirk. High Rise, I would go with Cam Akers. High Rise, I would go with Cam Akers. Garrett asks Judy or Christian Kirk on that one. Garrett, I would go with Christian Kirk. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. And of course, to all of you fantasy owners, good luck today. This is going to be a big one. Clowry 7. Higbee or Knox? I'm going to lean just slightly towards Tyler Higbee. Ever since Baker Mayfield took over that starting quarterback job for the Rams, he's really played well. He is going to be active today. He had a bit of an elbow injury, but Higbee is the play for me. Clowry, it's Higbee. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Okay, Canix Ball, Marquise, Hollywood Brown, or Olave. I would go with Chris Olave. I would go with Chris Olave. Juju Smith-Schuster or Jahan Dotson. That's a tough one for me. I'll lean just slightly towards Dotson. Not really crazy about either one. Juju has the tougher matchup. Dotson has Carson Wentz. Both are tough, but I'll lean just slightly towards Dotson. Devontae Adams or T. Higgins. That's a no-brainer for me. I'm going T. Higgins. I don't trust Jared Stidham in that quarterback role. Again, once we hit 5,000 likes, we'll do our first quick poll of the day. Every time we hit another 5,000 like benchmark, we'll do a quick poll. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Chuba Hubbard or Zay Jones. I would lean just slightly towards Chuba Hubbard. That's Greg Kemp. I would go with Chuba Hubbard. Alley Cat 110 asks Justin Fields or Jared Goff. I think both players have a phenomenal game, but I really like Jared Goff today. Alley Cat 110. I would go with Jared Goff. DJ Moore or Jacoby Myers. Okay, Luca Soccer 21. I would go with DJ Moore. Luca Soccer 21. I would go with DJ Moore. Is Nick Chubb a start today? I feel like you have to start him simply because I feel like it's a tough matchup against the Commanders, but not so brutal in which he's a sit. I have to rely on him today. So unless you have someone better on your bench, and it's very unlikely that you do, I would start with Nick Chubb. Andrews or Robinson. I don't know who the Robinson is, but I don't like either. I don't like Andrews. I don't know who Robinson is, Doughboy, so you're going to have to inform me who that is. Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook. Daniel, I would go with Dalvin Cook. I really like Dalvin Cook on an anytime touchdown, a very consistent play. To whoever just shared the channel, thank you so much. Make sure others know that we're going to be talking football for the next 3 hours. Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson. Believe it or not, JP Husk, I would go with Garrett Wilson. I would go with Garrett Wilson. DK29NY, Swift or Montgomery. I really like both of them. Because it's a PPR, I'll lean just slightly towards Swift. Montgomery has Herbert coming back, which may cut into his production just a little bit. So DK29NY, I like DeAndre Swift. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports, and of course, hit that like button. Maddie Ice HD asks, Bam Knight or Deontay Foreman? Bam Knight is one of my favorite players this week. I really like Bam Knight. I would absolutely start Bam Knight. Seth X3X asks, Brian Robinson or Cam Akers? I think both have good games. I'll go with Brian Robinson, Seth, just barely. Brian Robinson, just barely. Chris Brown, 43212 asks, Garrett Wilson or Jacoby Myers? I would go with Garrett Wilson, Chris. I would go with Garrett Wilson. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Josiah Vincent 1 asks, Goddard, Taysom Hill, or Cole Kmet? Josiah, I would go with Cole Kmet. Josiah, it's Cole Kmet for me at the tight end position. Tareen Blue 27 asks, Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy? I would go with Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Aaron Rodgers, Tareen. Aaron Rodgers is the play for me. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Garrett Darling 04 answered that question you had a moment ago. It's Jared Goff. Garrett Darling 04, it's Jared Goff for me. Seth G 177 asks, Cam Akers or George Pickens? I would go with Cam Akers, Seth. I'd go with Cam Akers. Answering your fantasy questions for the next 3 hours. JB 3411, George Pickens or Tyler Boyd? JB, I would go with George Pickens. JB, I would go with George Pickens. The Game MK asks, Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence? The Game MK, I'll lean just slightly towards Justin Herbert. I think the Jaguars' run game is going to be the star of today's. I don't see Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to have a good game, not a great game, but I really like Justin Herbert. Hopefully Invisible asks, Kamara Jones or Brian Robinson? Hopefully Invisible, I would go with Brian Robinson. That's Brian Robinson, hopefully Invisible. Devi asks, Deontay Foreman or Cordero Patterson? Devi, I would go with Deontay Foreman. I would go with Deontay Foreman. Answering all of your betting fantasy questions. If you've got game pick, total play, or player prop bet questions, we have those for you as well. Once we hit 5,000 likes, we'll do our first quick poll of the day. Is Packers wide receiver Christian Watson starting? He's going to be a game-time decision, a hip injury, two injuries that a wide receiver can have that make me very hesitant to start them is a hamstring and a hip. I feel like both of those injuries almost always come up mid-game, so you may want to sit Christian Watson today. Even if he starts a hip injury, it takes one tackle, one go to the ground play, and he could be out for the remainder of the game. You don't want to necessarily risk that. I know he could have a big game if he plays, but that hip injury is really concerning for me. Will Meyer asks, Mark Andrews or Dawson Knox? Will Meyer, I would go with Dawson Knox. That's Dawson Knox for me. TJC 904 asks, Flex, Pickens, Hollywood Brown, or Olave? TJC, I would go with George Pickens. That's George Pickens, TJC. Melon Guy 69, McKinnon, Pacheco, or Richie James? Melon Guy 69, I'd go with Jerick McKinnon. That's Jerick McKinnon. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. If you do give us a gift, just like Deadpool84 did, makes it easier to see you in the chat as we got a lot of questions coming in. So if you do that, a little icon shows up next to your name, makes it easy to find you in the chat. Deadpool84, Mark Andrews or Goddard? I really don't like either one of them. I'll lean just slightly towards Goddard, but not crazy about either one. Ryan Finkel 10, Stevenson or Foreman? Ryan Finkel 10, I'm going to take a bit of a chance here, and I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson, more because Foreman is going to be splitting touches with Chuba Hubbard against what should be a good Bucs run defense. I think Foreman will have a good game, but I like Ramondre Stevenson a little bit more. Ryan Finkel 10, it's Ramondre Stevenson for me. We're getting closer to 5,000 likes. Once we hit it, we'll do a quick poll. Cam Akers or Montgomery? Sean, I would go just slightly towards Montgomery. I like him today. Think he could get similar points as Cam Akers. DJ Moore or Garrett Wilson? Cooper, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. Cooper, I'll go Garrett Wilson. Herbert or Goff? That's an easy one for me. I'm going Jared Goff. That's definitely the easiest play for me. Track God, thank you so much for the gift. Now that every time you ask your question, a little icon shows up next to your name, makes it really easy to find you in the chat. Thoughts on Michael Pittman today? I'm not crazy about him. I think he'll get enough targets for maybe him to be worth a flex play. He might get 7 targets, 4 or 5 catches. But that said, I think yardage could be 55, 60 yards. I don't see him getting in the end zone though. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. We just hit 5,000 likes, so we will do a quick poll. We will do a quick poll right now and then get right back to answering your fantasy questions. Here's our first quick poll of the day. Will Tom Brady throw an interception? Smiley face yes, crying face no. Will Tom Brady throw an interception today? Smiley face yes, crying face no. Once we do this quick poll, we'll go right back to answering your fantasy questions. Will Tom Brady throw an interception today? Smiling face yes, crying face no. Doing our first quick poll of the day because we hit 5,000 likes. Let us know. Will Tom Brady throw an interception today? Smiley face yes, crying face no. For odds out there, yes is even money, no is minus 130. Let us know what you guys think. Our first quick poll of the day. Will Tom Brady throw an interception? Smiley face yes, crying face no. Yes is even money, no is minus 130. I'm going to get back to answering your fantasy questions in just a second, but we like to do a quick poll every time we hit another 5,000 like benchmark. We hit 5,000 likes, so will Tom Brady throw an interception? Smiley face yes, crying face no. Yes is going off at even money. No is going off at minus 130. It is yes that's going to win this poll. I tend to agree with you. Brady has thrown an interception in 4 straight games and has 2 interceptions in 3 straight games. So I feel like that's a good player prop bet to play. Is Tom Brady over half an interception? I feel like that's a good player prop bet for those out there. Back to answering your fantasy questions. Gabe 2-0. Romeo Doubs or Foreman if Watson is out? I would go Deontay Foreman. I'd go Deontay Foreman. Nick Chubb or Algier? That's a really tough one for me because I like Algier, but I will lean just slightly towards Nick Chubb. Brendan Riley, 17. Evan Ingram or Goddard? I would go with Evan Ingram, Brendan. I would go with Evan Ingram. Turbo from Dow asks, Hollywood Brown, Amari Cooper or Algier? Turbo, I would go with Tyler Algier. Turbo, I would go with Tyler Algier. Joe Burrow or Justin Fields is the question from Rafa. Rafa, I would go with Justin Fields. Rafa, I'd go Justin Fields. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Algier or Christian Kirk? I would go Tyler Algier, Coach King 10. Coach King 10, it's Tyler Algier. B. Moskowitz 7. Hollywood Brown, Waddle, Christian Watson, pick 2. I would say Waddle and Watson, but I am concerned about Watson's hip injury, so you may want to have someone else available to you. I really don't like Hollywood Brown today. I would fade Hollywood Brown almost entirely. Allen Lazard or Jacoby Myers? Well, because of that Christian Watson injury, I like Allen Lazard that much more. So, board into house, I would go with Allen Lazard. Kunal 202, Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins? I would go with Kirk Cousins, Kunal. I would go with Kirk Cousins. A.J. Dillon or Allen Lazard? I'll lean just slightly towards A.J. Dillon on that one. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports and hitting that like button. Once we hit 10,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Andrews or Waller? Really don't like either one of those two. I might lean just slightly towards Mark Andrews just because I have more faith in Huntley than I do Jared Stidham. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Rick asks, Goff or Fields? Rick, it's Jared Goff for me. Not Kyle 101 asks Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff. Again, I'd go Jared Goff. Jared Goff may be one of my favorite plays of the day going up against that Bears defense at home. Jared Goff has put out monster numbers at home. Love Jared Goff today. Dakota Huddleston, Zay Jones, Mike Evans, or McKinnon for the flex. Dakota, believe it or not, I'm going to lean slightly towards McKinnon, but I'm seriously considering Mike Evans because J.C. Horn of the Carolina Panthers is not playing today. Without that star corner, I do think it affects the Carolina pass defense, but I'll go with Jerick McKinnon, Dakota. Nolan Payne, 36, asks Tyler Lockett or Juju Smith-Schuster. Nolan, I would go with Tyler Lockett. Both have tough matchups, but I prefer Tyler Lockett because Sauce Gardner will be on DK Metcalf, I expect. Ben Ross, 244, asks Josh Jacobs or Najee Harris. Both have brutal matchups. I'll go with Najee Harris. Najee Harris, Ben Ross. Paxican asks Cortland Sutton, Peoples-Jones, or Curtis Samuel. I'll lean just slightly towards Cortland. No, I'll lean slightly towards Donovan Peoples-Jones. Paxican, I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I had a change of heart. I don't trust the Broncos' passing offense. Bob, 7253. First of all, thank you for your support. Pick 2, Mixon, Akers, or Stevenson. Bob, I would go with Cam Akers, and I would go with Ramondre Stevenson. Bob, 7253. I'd go Cam Akers and Ramondre Stevenson. I appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. We're answering fantasy football and football gambling questions for another 2 hours and 45 minutes. Make sure you're throwing your questions in the chat. And of course, to those who are streaming on YouTube as well, make sure you're subscribing. I can get your questions in from YouTube, including this one we just got in. Romeo Doubs or Deontay Foreman, if no Christian Watson. I mentioned this earlier. I would go Deontay Foreman. I'd go Deontay Foreman out of those options. Stephen Edwards, 123 asks, Brian Robinson or Kamara? Stephen, I would go with Brian Robinson. Answering all of your fantasy questions. If you give us a gift, a little icon shows up next to your name, makes it really easy to see you in the chat. One Dog Rescue did that. Thank you, One Dog Rescue. You asked James Conner or Tyler Algier. I'm going to lean just slightly towards Tyler Algier. I think both have about the same kind of game. But because I don't really understand the quarterback situation with the Arizona Cardinals, I'll go with Tyler Algier. I think the Falcons are in a slightly better position. Jenna Kent, 1988, asked Gerald Everett or Noah Fant. I would go with Gerald Everett, Jenna. Gerald Everett. Again, answering a fantasy question that we just got in from YouTube. David Njoku or George Kittle. That's an easy one for me. It's got to be George Kittle. Ever since Brock Purdy took over, George Kittle has been on fire. You got to go with George Kittle. Another fantasy question that we just got in from YouTube. George Pickens or Jacoby Myers, please? I'll go with George Pickens on that one. George Pickens. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate all of you joining us as I answer your fantasy questions. Rick asks Bam Knight or Jeff Wilson. Rick, I would go with Bam Knight. I'd go Bam Knight. Jacrispy Santo asks Myers or Ayuk. Jacrispy Santo, I would go with Brandon Ayuk. April Lunn asks Joe Burrow or Justin Fields. April, I would go with Justin Fields. April, it would be Justin Fields for me. Hayes H10 asks Taysom Hill or Tyler Conklin. Hayes, I'll go with Tyler Conklin against a really bad Seahawks defense against tight ends. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Another question in from YouTube. Josh Allen or Justin Fields? I would go with Justin Fields. Out of Josh Allen or Justin Fields, who would I go with in fantasy? I'd go with Justin Fields this week. Make sure you're hitting that follow button at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Geno Smith or Brock Purdy? Bellamy, I would go with Brock Purdy. Bellamy, I'd go with Brock Purdy. I am a fun guy. Niners or Giants defense. I am a fun guy. I'd go with the Giants defense just slightly. I'd go Giants defense just slightly. Cam Akers or Leonard Fournette. Sean, I'd go with Cam Akers. Another question in from YouTube. Aaron Jones or Josh Jacobs in a half PPR. I would go with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones over Josh Jacobs in a half PPR. Another question, can Devin Singletary outperform Nick Chubb? Only if they start to sit Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's a better play. Hollywood Brown or Michael Pittman? I'd go with Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman. Once we hit 10,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll, so make sure you're hitting that like button. J-Dog J, Lockett or Fournette? Thanks for the good calls this year. Appreciate your support. Thank you so much. J-Dog, I'm going to lean just slightly towards Tyler Lockett. Make sure you're following us. Foreman or Sutton? Prem Gandhi 24, I would go Deontay Foreman. Prem Gandhi 24, I'd go Deontay Foreman. BLNX asks Brandon Cook, Christian Kirk, or Peoples-Jones. BLNX, I would go with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk. User 7964, appreciate your support. You ask Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence and why? I would go with Justin Herbert. He's got the better matchup today. And while I know that Trevor Lawrence has played well, I think it's the running game of Jacksonville that really stars today. Another question in from YouTube. Geno Smith or Justin Fields? I would go with Justin Fields. Justin Fields over Geno Smith. Another question in from YouTube. For flex, should I go with Mixon or Metcalf? I would go with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon over DK Metcalf for your flex. And one more question from YouTube before I get back to TikTok Live. Josh Jacobs, Kamara, or Montgomery? I'll lean just slightly towards Josh Jacobs, though I like Montgomery. I think it's Herbert is going to cut into his production just slightly. Zach Tramp 1, appreciate your support. You asked George Kittle or Evan Ingram. I'd go George Kittle. He has back-to-back games with 20-plus fantasy points. He's played really well with Brock Purdy, so you got to believe in that matchup or in that pairing. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow us. If you give us a gift, a little icon shows up next to your name, makes it really easy to find you in the chat, just like user 7964 did. You ask Michael Pittman or Christian Watson. I'd prefer Christian Watson, but obviously his health status is concerning. I would try and find someone else to kind of hold as an in-reserve player in case Watson can't go. Someone maybe in the 4 p.m. window or someone on Monday night. But my concern is Pittman doesn't have a great matchup. Watson does, but Watson has that hip injury. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We have 2 hours and 40 minutes left of answering your fantasy and gambling questions for NFL Week 17. We're almost at 10,000 likes. Once we are, we'll do another quick poll. Jared Goff or Brock Purdy? That's an easy one for me. Jared Goff is a start. There is no one I like more at quarterback today than Jared Goff. Jared Goff is my favorite quarterback of the day. So if you have Jared Goff, he is a must start today. You have to start Jared Goff. No reason not to. User 123 asks Sam Darnold over 200 passing yards. I don't think so. I think he's closer to like 170, 175. I think he's under 200 passing yards. I think it's the running game of Carolina that really stands out. Bad Captain asks Cam Akers or Leonard Fournette. I would go with Cam Akers. I'd go with Cam Akers. Appreciate all of you not just joining us, but sharing our channel, letting others know that we're going to be talking sports. We so appreciate this audience helping us grow every day. We just hit 10,000 likes, so let's do that next quick poll. Our next quick poll question has to do with 2-star wide receivers. Which wide receiver of these two will have more fantasy points today? Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Let's do this quick poll. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Here we go with our quick poll. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Let us know. Doing a quick poll because we just hit 10,000 likes. We'll get back to answering your fantasy questions in just a minute. But which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Let us know what you guys think. We'll get back to answering your questions in just a second. Smiling face Tyreek Hill, crying face Justin Jefferson. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? This one wasn't close, but not in the direction I thought. You guys say Justin Jefferson's going to have more fantasy points today. I actually go in the other direction. I think it's Tyreek Hill. I think the Patriots secondary is a shell of itself. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a much better substitute quarterback than people think. Tyreek Hill historically against the Patriots is good for about 100 yards and a touchdown every game he plays against them. So while I think Justin Jefferson plays really well, I actually think Tyreek Hill has more fantasy points today. Once we hit 15,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Drake London or DJ Moore? I have to go DJ Moore. DJ Moore. FW Alex asks, Foreman, Swift, Myers this week. Alex, I just lean slightly towards DeAndre Swift. Getting a question in from YouTube. Jerry, Judy, Lockett, or Jacobs at the flex, half PPR. I lean just slightly towards Josh Jacobs in that group, with Lockett being number 2. Cash, Mr. T, Walker or Josh Jacobs. On that one, I'll lean just slightly towards Kenneth Walker III. Cash, I'd lean towards Kenneth Walker III. Jackson asks, Christian Watson or Brandon Ayuk? Because of Watson's hip injury, I'll lean towards Brandon Ayuk. Make sure you're sharing this channel with others. Let others know that we're going to be talking sports for another 2 hours and 30 minutes. Greg Dortch or Richie James at the flex. I don't really understand what the quarterback situation is with the Arizona Cardinals. I would prefer Dortch, but we saw last week him kind of come on, especially without DeAndre Hopkins today. I think he's the better play, but I don't understand this quarterback situation with the Cardinals. Montgomery or Ingram, I'll lean just slightly towards Montgomery. Appreciate all of you joining us. Gary Dalton 312, hi, hope you're having a great 2023. Another question in from YouTube. Christian Kirk or DeAndre Hopkins? Well, DeAndre Hopkins isn't playing today. DeAndre Hopkins is not active today. If he's in your lineup, you need to get him out. You guys got to make sure you have active players in. A lot of reasons to be concerned, whether it's players being sit or injuries. Make sure you don't have a donut in your lineup for this fantasy championship weekend. Jacoby Myers or DJ Moore? I would go with DJ Moore. That's DJ Moore. And another question from YouTube. Tyler Algier or Pacheco? I would go with Tyler Algier. And between Gardner Minshew and Aaron Rodgers, I would 100% go in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers for sure. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Andy G. Cards, thank you for your support today. You asked Montgomery, Najee Harris, or Tyler Algier. Andy, I would go with Tyler Algier. Andy, I'd go with Tyler Algier. Clark Rush asks A.J. Dillon, Dotson, or Watson. I would say Watson. Because you have the security of having A.J. Dillon, I would say Watson for now. Monitor Watson's status right up until game time. If he's not a go, you can put A.J. Dillon in. If Watson doesn't play, they're going to rely on A.J. Dillon more anyway, so that's a good play. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, a question we just got in from YouTube. Jaguars defense or Falcons defense? Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm going to lean just slightly towards the Jaguars defense. Just slightly towards the Jaguars. Callie B. Luna asks, Jones, Andrews, or Evans? Is that Aaron Jones? If Callie B. Luna, if it's Aaron Jones, I lean towards Aaron Jones. Otherwise, I'd go with Mike Evans. Nick Mans 25 asks Tyler Lockett or Ayuk. I would go with Brandon Ayuk. I'd go Brandon Ayuk, Nick. DJ Chark or Romeo Dobbs. Scary Terry 201. I'd go DJ Chark. I'd go DJ Chark. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. And once we hit 15,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. K. Jones asks Tyler Algier or Hollywood Brown. K. Jones, I would go with Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier. Jumping down to answer more of your fantasy questions. Appreciate the gift, John. Thank you so much. John, thank you so much for the gift. When you give us a gift, a little icon shows up next to your name. Makes it really easy to find you in the chat and be able to answer your question right away. Just like Bandit did. Bandit Eastlost asks Foreman or Fournette. Bandit, I would go with Deontay Foreman. Bandit, I would go with Deontay Foreman. Razzlemania. Can I bet my kids' college fund on Goff over 280 passing yards? I'm never advising anyone to put their college fund on it. So in terms of do I like the bet? I do like the bet. I also like Jared Goff, obviously over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's going off at minus 210, so you're not getting as good a return on that college fund money. That said, over 280 passing yards, I think is a good play. The Bears are a really bad run defense, though. That's my only concern about the total passing yards. So you may want to be a little wary about that college fund money. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Once we hit 15,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. AfloFit asks Latavius Murray, Chuba Hubbard, or Herbert. That's an interesting one. I'll lean just slightly towards, I want to say Khalil Herbert. I'm not going to because he came off the injury report. I lean towards Hubbard, but Herbert's an interesting one for me. Deontay Johnson or Tyler Algier. I'll go with Tyler Algier. I'll go Tyler Algier. Hubby Life asks Nick Chubb, Pacheco, White, or Foreman. I will go Nick Chubb here, Hubby Life. I will go Nick Chubb. B Rob 65 asks Algier or DJ Moore. I would go with Tyler Algier. Another question in from YouTube. Mike Williams, Olave, Kamara, Watson, Montgomery, or Jahan Dotson at the flex. To answer this question from YouTube, I would go with Mike Williams. Answering the question from YouTube, I'd go Mike Williams at the flex. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports and hit that like button. Once we hit 15,000 likes, we will do another quick poll. Hobox Goblin asks DJ Chark or Jahan Dotson. Hobox Goblin, I would go with DJ Chark. DJ Chark. Phil K asks Montgomery, Fournette, White, or Foreman starting 2 in a PPR. Phil K, I would go with Deontay Foreman, and I'd go David Montgomery. That's Deontay Foreman and David Montgomery. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Hit that follow button. Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, I would go with Justin Fields. I'd go Justin Fields. Anonymous123 asks Garrett Wilson or Montgomery or Ramondre Stevenson. Anonymous, I would go Ramondre Stevenson. Anonymous, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you so much for the support. Manning12 asks Cam Akers or Lazard in a PPR. Manning12, I'd go Cam Akers. Manning12, I'd go Cam Akers. Woody Demand, Sutton, James, Dortch. That's a tough one. Woody Demand, I'd probably lean just slightly towards Cortland Sutton. Eric asks Tyler Algier, Dylan, or Ingram. Eric, I would go with Tyler Algier. I'd go Tyler Algier. We have another 2 hours and 30 minutes of answering your fantasy questions. Hope you guys are having a wonderful 2023. Make sure you throw not just your fantasy questions, but your gambling questions in the chat. Happy to answer those as well. B. Brando asks Michael Pittman or Hollywood Brown. I don't like either one, but I'll lean just slightly towards Michael Pittman. Answering another question from YouTube, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube at Fumble Sports. Cam Akers, Miles Sanders, or Tyler Algier. Pick two. I'll lean just slightly towards Miles Sanders, and I'll lean just slightly towards Tyler Algier. I'll lean slightly towards Sanders and Algier. I like all three, though. I like all three a lot, so I think you're in a good spot no matter who you go with. J. Bruno 1102 asks Gardner Minshew or Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. We're almost up to 15,000 likes. Once we do hit 15,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Brock Purdy or Tom Brady? Believe it or not, Andrew, I would go with Brock Purdy. He has the highest quarterback rating since week 14. Brock Purdy's been on fire. Hello, Terry McLaurin or Drake London. Don't like either one really because of the quarterback situation, but I'll lean just slightly towards Terry McLaurin. We just hit 15,000 likes, so we're going to do another quick poll question. Appreciate all of you guys supporting us. Thank you for sharing the channel and letting others know about us. We really appreciate you guys sharing us and letting others know about us. That said, we're going to do another quick poll because we hit 15,000 likes. This next quick poll question will be about a betting question. Which team will cover the spread? Which team will cover the spread? Smiley face, Panthers plus 3.5. Crying face, Buccaneers minus 3.5. Which team will cover the spread? One more time. Panthers plus 3.5. Smiling face, Buccaneers minus 3.5. Crying face. Here's a quick poll question because we hit 15,000 likes. Which team will cover the spread? Panthers plus 3.5, smiley face. Buccaneers minus 3.5, crying face. Let us know what you guys think. Which team will cover the spread today? Smiling face, Panthers plus 3.5, crying face, Buccaneers minus 3.5. Both are going off at minus 110. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. You can get all my picks, player prop bets, and of course, fantasy advice as well. Doing a quick poll question because we hit 15,000 likes. This is a betting question. Which team will cover the spread? Smiley face, Panthers plus 3.5. Crying face, Buccaneers minus 3.5. Let us know what you guys think. Which team will cover the spread today? Smiling face, Panthers plus 3.5. Crying face, Buccaneers minus 3.5. Let us know what you guys think. Interestingly enough, you guys went with the Buccaneers covering the spread. I'm going in the other direction. I have the Panthers covering plus 3.5. I'm buying the 1.5 to get it plus 5 because I feel better about that. I think it's going to be a 3-4 point game. But that said, I like the Carolina Panthers to cover that game. The Buccaneers have not covered the spread at home this year. Let me say that again. They are 0-6-1 against the spread this year. So I like the Carolina Panthers to cover the spread today. The Buccaneers have not covered the spread at home this season. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions on YouTube and on TikTok Live, make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Question from YouTube, Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Dortch, or Pacheco. Pick two. I would go with Hodgins and I'd go Pacheco. I'd go Hodgins and Pacheco as my two for that. Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, or Brian Robinson at the flex. I would go with Brian Robinson. I'd go with Brian Robinson at the flex. Another question from YouTube. Zay Jones, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Drake London? Ooh, good question. I'd go with Zay Jones and Drake London. I'd go with Zay Jones and Drake London. Answering all of your fantasy questions. We have another 2 hours and 20 minutes before kickoff. Going to be going right up until kickoff answering your questions. Nick Chubb or Tyler Algier? The Dagger podcast, I would go with Tyler Algier, I think. I lean just slightly towards Algier. Jerry Jeudy or Gabe Davis? I would go with Gabe Davis. I'd go Gabe Davis. Bilbo Swaggins 169 asks, start two, Ayuk, Chark, or Myers? Bilbo Swaggins, I would go with Brandon Ayuk, and I'd go DJ Chark. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow button at Fumble Sports. Bobby N7 asks Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon. Bobby N7, I would go with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones. Greg Voice asks Allen Lazard, Gabe Davis, Pickens, or Dotson. You need one. Greg Voice, I would lean just slightly, I think, towards Gabe Davis. I'd lean slightly towards Gabe Davis. Bands E. Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields today. He's got a great matchup going up against the Detroit Lions. Share our channel with others. Let others know that we're going to be answering fantasy football and football gambling questions for another 2 hours and 20 minutes. D from Texas asks Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy. D from Texas, I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Better matchup going up against the Minnesota Vikings passing defense, which is just god-awful. Sean Buddy asks, need one, Christian Kirk, J.K. Dobbins, or Latavius Murray. Sean Buddy, I would go with J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins. King Kong Fuzzy, Chuba Hubbard, or Romeo Doubs. Ooh, that's a really tough one. King Kong Fuzzy, I'll go with Romeo Doubs. The Christian Watson injury is helping that case. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Answering another question from those watching on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Devontae Adams or Mike Williams. I like Mike Williams. I do not like Devontae Adams today. I've seen Jarrett Stidham play when he was on the Patriots. I know he's familiar with the Josh McDaniels offense, but I have no faith in him. Don't like him, especially going up against that 49ers defense. So I prefer Mike Williams today. Drake London over 58.5. I could see that happening. I'm not crazy about it, but I could see that happening. Drake London over. Richie James over 37.5 receiving yards. Not as crazy about that one. Kirk Cousins under 263.5 parlay. So if this is all in a parlay, I'm not crazy about it. That Richie James is actually the one that's giving me the most concern on that parlay. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Richard Chips, I'm waffling on Zay Jones. I don't know who to start now. Richard, throw some of the options in the chat. More than happy to answer all of your fantasy questions. Colts fan Brad 408 asks Elijah Moore or Jamison Williams. Colts fan Brad, I like Elijah Moore. When Mike White's been on the field, Elijah Moore has been much more productive. So I like Elijah Moore today against that Seahawks defense. Damon Granado asks Jacoby Myers, Juju Smith-Schuster, or DJ Chark, pick two. On that one, I'll go towards Jacoby Myers and DJ Chark. I'm fading Juju Smith-Schuster against the Denver Broncos defense that got embarrassed last week. I expect them to have a bit more fight this week. They're supposed to be a really good defense against the pass. Anthony asks Evan Ingram or TJ Hawkinson. Anthony, I would go with TJ Hawkinson. Anthony, I'd go TJ Hawkinson. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Greg Voice asks Ramondre Stevenson or Kenneth Walker III. Greg, I would go with Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson, Greg Voice. Warning E1133 asks, hey, two questions. First, a flex, Etienne Waddle or Mike Williams? Ooh, that's a really interesting one. I would go with Etienne. I love Waddle today. I really like Williams. But Etienne's going up against the worst running defense in the league, in the Houston Texans. I have to have faith that Doug Peterson's going to stand by his word and play his starters. So Etienne for me. Your other question, warning E1133, is for the tight end, Freiermuth or Knox. I would go with Pat Freiermuth for the tight end position. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Once we hit 20,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Mario B 1028 asks Garrett Wilson or Devontae Smith. Mario B, I'm going to lean just slightly towards Garrett Wilson. E. Bollinger 137 asks Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, or J.K. Dobbins. E. Bollinger, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson on that one as well. Big Stick asks pick two, Hollywood Brown, Dillon, or Jacobs. Big Stick, I'd go A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs. We have another 2 hours and 15 minutes to go in this live show. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. A question that we've gotten in from YouTube: Lockett or Mike Williams? I'd go with Mike Williams over Tyler Lockett to answer that YouTube question. Another question in from YouTube: A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones? Tough one, but I'd lean just slightly towards Aaron Jones. Lean slightly towards Aaron Jones. One more question in from YouTube: Hollywood Brown, Dillon, or Jacobs? Oh, I just answered that one. It's Dillon and Jacobs. This last one from YouTube, then I'll get back to answering the ones on TikTok Live. Pick two: A.J. Dillon, Montgomery, Rachaad White, or Joe Mixon? That's a tough one for me. I'll lean just slightly towards Montgomery and Joe Mixon. Montgomery and Joe Mixon. Appreciate all of you joining us and the support you guys show us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Razzlemania, thank you for your support. Thank you for your gift. Do the Giants win today? Yes, they do, but I would be thinking about maybe doing a Colts cover play. I would buy the point and a half. I would take Giants on the money line, and I would take the Colts to cover. Interesting note, Nick Foles has never lost against the New York Giants. Interesting. Jack asks, Gardner Minshew or Aaron Rodgers? I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Thank you for all of these gifts. Thank you for so much of the support you guys are showing us. User 69 asks, start two: Waddle, McLaurin, or Kirk? User, I would go with Waddle, and I'd go with Kirk. Waddle and Kirk. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Derek Lane 1, thank you for the support you show us. Derek Lane 1, you asked James Cook or J.K. Dobbins in a half PPR. Derek Lane 1, I'd go with J.K. Dobbins. I do think the Giants win today. Someone keeps asking that. I do think the Giants win today, but I may consider the Colts on a cover play after I buy the point and a half. G. Canberra 1985, appreciate your support. You ask, pick one: Hodgins, Boyd, McKenzie in a PPR. I'd go Hodgins. Hodgins would be the one, G. Canberra. Appreciate all of you guys supporting us, like Bud Woods 10. Fant over Andrews. I do like that one, Bud Woods. I could see Noah Fant actually being a good target, given that Geno Smith might have a tough time getting to DK Metcalf with Sauce Gardner out there. So not a great matchup against the Jets, but I think I prefer Noah Fant. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Cara asks, Ramondre Stevenson or A.J. Dillon? Cara, I would go with Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson. Closing in on 20,000 likes. Once we do, we'll do another quick poll question. Every time we hit a 5,000 like benchmark, we do a quick poll. So we'll do another quick poll question in just a minute once we hit 20,000 likes. Tyler 2494 asks, for flex, Kenneth Walker III, Amari Cooper, or Christian Watson? Because I'm worried, Tyler, about Christian Watson's hip, I would say Kenneth Walker III. I don't think you're going to get any clarity between now and 1 p.m. kickoff about Christian Watson. So for that reason, I would lean towards Kenneth Walker III. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us. This is an unbelievable community that we have. We're closing in on 30,000 followers on TikTok. Unbelievable to think over the course of the football season, we've grown. We started the first day of the football season on that first Thursday. Now we have 30,000 followers. Unbelievable. We are a new sports network because you guys support us. Thank you so much. You made our 2022. We can't wait to offer you so much more in 2023. Casanova Kenny for flex. Peoples-Jones or Juju Smith-Schuster? Casanova Kenny, I would go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Casanova Kenny, I'd go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'll get back to answering your fantasy questions in just 1 minute, but because we just hit 20,000 likes, we will do another quick poll question. You guys are just amazing with the support you show us. So because we hit 20,000 likes, we're doing another quick poll. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. Mr. Luan Solo, thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. I so appreciate that. Means the world to us. Thank you so much for subscribing. Means so much to us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's get to answering. Let's do this quick poll question because we had 20,000 likes. Our next poll question has to do with two quarterbacks going head-to-head later today. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points? Which quarterback will have more fantasy points? Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? Which quarterback will have more fantasy points? Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. Let's do this quick poll one more time. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points? Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. Here we go with a quick poll. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. I'll get back to answering your fantasy questions in just 1 second, but first we're going to do this quick poll question. Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. Which quarterback has more fantasy points today? Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. Which quarterback gets more fantasy points today? Curious to know what you guys think. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Doing a quick poll question because we hit 20,000 likes. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. This one's going in an interesting direction. Kirk Cousins getting a lot of support. Smiling face Kirk Cousins, crying face Aaron Rodgers. Coming the final seconds, you guys say that it's going to be Kirk Cousins. He has had some unbelievable games this year. One of the top 5 quarterbacks statistically in the league, believe it or not. That said, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, and the reason I do, the Minnesota Vikings pass defense is just terrible, one of the worst in the NFL. We've seen them make quarterbacks like Mac Jones look really good this year. Imagine what Aaron Rodgers is going to do at home. I really like Aaron Rodgers today, so I'm actually going to say Aaron Rodgers is going to have more fantasy points than Kirk Cousins. I think it's a matter of the matchup. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Once we hit 25,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question if you're having fun doing those. Getting a question in from YouTube. Thoughts on Terry McLaurin against the Browns with Carson Wentz throwing the ball? Do I bench him? I'm not crazy about it because of Carson Wentz. I would say Terry McLaurin is probably the only wide receiver of the Washington Commanders that I have any confidence in starting today. Let me know who your other options are. Happy to answer that question from YouTube. I would lean towards starting Terry McLaurin, but I understand the reason for concern. Willie Wrangler asks Zonovan Knight or Tyler Lockett. I would go with Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Knight is one of my favorite running backs of the day. Answering all of your fantasy questions, gambling questions, everything you need to have a successful NFL Week 17. We're closing in on ending our first hour of the show. We have over 2 hours left, so don't worry. We're going to answer all of your questions. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Hit that follow button, hit that like button, and of course, let others know that we're going to be talking sports for the next 2 hours, talking football, fantasy advice, gambling advice. Share our channel. Let others know about Fumble Sports. Rob Stan 34 asks, Trevor Lawrence or Jared Goff? Rob, it's Jared Goff. As I mentioned earlier, Jared Goff is one of my favorite plays of the day. If you're going if you play daily fantasy, I love Jared Goff today. He would be my quarterback if I'm doing daily fantasy. If you're playing weekly fantasy, Jared Goff is a must start today. Must start today, Jared Goff. E. Kim Slim asks Brady, Purdy, or White. I would go with Brock Purdy, E. Kim Slim. I'd go with Brock Purdy. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. MM1023 asks Goddard or Higbee. I'd go with Tyler Higbee. Ever since Baker Mayfield took over that quarterback position and Tyler Higbee has had a resurgence, I'd go with Tyler Higbee. Question we just got in from YouTube. Best start between Donovan Peoples-Jones, Darius Slayton, and Jahan Dotson. I'd probably lean towards Donovan Peoples-Jones being the best start. Slayton's going to have to contend with Stephon Gilmore today, which is a tough cornerback matchup. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones out of that group. Eli Goods asks Scary Terry or Hollywood Brown. Eli Goods, I'd go with Scary Terry. Scary Terry. Dougaroo asks Drake London or Chark in a PPR. Dougaroo812, I would go with DJ Chark. DJ Chark. D from Texas, thank you for so much of the support you're showing us. Unbelievable support. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Curry's better asks Dobbins or Chubb. Curry's better, I would go with Nick Chubb. Curry's better, I would go with Nick Chubb. Cam6363 asks Jerry Jeudy or Tyler Algier in a PPR. Cam6363, I would go with Tyler Algier. I'd go with Tyler Algier. D from Texas, thank you so much for the support. Pacheco or Lazard in a PPR. I'll lean just slightly towards Lazard. That Watson injury might open up an opportunity for Lazard. Dallas Roofer asks J.K. Dobbins or Ayuk. Dallas Roofer, I think I would go with Brandon Ayuk. Dallas Roofer, I'd lean towards Ayuk. Spencer 1200 asks David Montgomery or Dobbins. On that one, Spencer, I would lean towards Dobbins just slightly. I think Montgomery is going to be splitting touches with Herbert, which might hurt him. Barry Boob asks Moss or Dobbins. Barry, I think on that one I'm going to lean just slightly towards Dobbins. Getting another question in from YouTube. Miles asks, follow-up McLaurin question. I have Keenan Allen already starting. I also have Richie James, Hodgins, Dortch, or Romeo Dobbs. Miles, I think I'm going to lean just slightly towards Romeo Dobbs or Hodgins over McLaurin. I might lean towards Romeo Dobbs. I'm not crazy about this one. McLaurin is probably the safest bet, but I think Romeo Dobbs, especially if Christian Watson doesn't play, could see that extra production, that extra targeting from Aaron Rodgers. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We have another 2 hours left of this chat, of this live on YouTube and on TikTok. Make sure you're following us and make sure you're sharing the channel, letting others know that we're going to be answering fantasy and gambling questions for another 2 hours. Hood Dreams 19 asks David Montgomery or Zonovan Knight. Hood Dreams 19, I'd go with Zonovan Knight. I love Zonovan Knight today. If I were building a daily fantasy lineup, I would start Jared Goff as my quarterback, and Zonovan Knight would absolutely be one of my running backs today. Zonovan Knight is a great play today. Byron asks Pacheco or Aaron Jones in a standard league. Byron, I'd lean just slightly towards Aaron Jones. Just want to be careful because of that health injury, or that health status. It's Austin asks Mariota or Ritter. I liked what I saw from Ritter in the second half of last week. I actually think the Falcons should have gone to him earlier in the season. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Curry's better. Patterson or Dobbins, please. I would go with J.K. Dobbins. Miles on YouTube, Happy New Year to you. Good luck to you in your fantasy matchup. Rooting for all of you this week. Hope you're cashing your tickets and, of course, winning your fantasy playoff matchup. Make sure you're hitting that like button at Fumble Sports. Once we hit 25,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. A.J. Dillon, Lockett, or Zach Moss as my flex PPR. Oof. On that one, I'm going to lean just slightly towards A.J. Dillon. Not crazy about that one, but I'm going to lean slightly towards A.J. Dillon. Keith Seltzer21 asks Rodgers or Cousins. That was our last poll question. Everyone in the chat was going with Kirk Cousins, or a majority rather. I lean towards Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers has the better matchup, so I'll lean slightly towards Aaron Rodgers. Jay asks DeAndre Swift or Zonovan Knight. Believe it or not, I'm going to lean just slightly towards Zonovan Knight in that one. I think DeAndre Swift's going to have a really good game, but I think the Lions offense is going to spread the ball around. So for that reason, I think Zonovan Knight might be the better play. Answering a question from YouTube, what three do I start? Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, or Lockett? The three I would start to answer this question from a YouTube subscriber, make sure you're subscribing, is Mike Williams, Amari Cooper, and Tyler Lockett. That's Mike Williams, Amari Cooper, and Tyler Lockett. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Another question in from YouTube. I have Adams and Pittman as my 3 receivers. Should I flex Olave, Lockett, or Chark? DJ Chark would be my PPR. And I'm also not crazy about your starters. I might take out Pittman or Adams and put in Lockett because I like Lockett over those two. Nicholas asks McKinnon or Tyler Algier. Ooh, that's a tough one. Nicholas, I'm going to lean slightly towards Tyler Algier, just slightly. Rush Diddy 1277 asks Aaron Rodgers or Minshew. Rush Diddy, I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Rush Diddy, I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Share the channel. Let others know that Butt Fumble Sports will be answering fantasy and gambling questions for another 2 hours. Another 2 hours. Wolfsack23 asks, down 21, Myers, Dortch, or Dobbins at the flex. I would go with J.K. Dobbins, Wolfsack. I'd go J.K. Dobbins. Dab Daddy 710 420. Hope your 2023 is off to a high start. I would go with Scary Terry, Dab Daddy. I'd go with Scary Terry. Greg Kemp 78 asks, pick 2, Moss, Stevenson, or Chuba Hubbard. Greg, I would go with Ramondre Stevenson, and I'd go with Zach Moss. Greg Kemp, I lean slightly towards Moss and Stevenson, only because Hubbard's going to be splitting touches with Foreman, and you know Moss is going to be the RB1 for the Colts. Rapid Fire 40, play Cam Akers. Yes, Cam Akers is a good play today. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Chad Landers 1, what 3 do I start? Judy, Williams, Amari Cooper. Okay, this is the question that we got earlier. Chad Landers, I'd go Mike Williams, I'd go Amari Cooper, and I'd go Tyler Lockett. Once we hit 25,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Jay Reese, 77, Herbert, Lawrence, or Minshew. Jay, I would go with Justin Herbert. Jay Reese, 77, I would go with Justin Herbert. Brandon Flomenhoft. Brandon Flomenhoft, appreciate you joining us and supporting us. Thank you so much. Brandon, you asked Devontae Smith or Tyler Algier. The Saints are actually one of the best defenses against the pass in the NFL, believe it or not. So I would go with Tyler Algier, Brandon. I would go with Tyler Algier. Levy Odom asks Najee Harris or Leonard Fournette. Levy, I would go with Najee Harris. Najee Harris. Ticker Talker asks pick 3, Jamal Williams, Swift, Zach Moss, Dobbins, or Mixon. Ooh, good options here. Ticker Talker, I would go with Jamal Williams. I'd go DeAndre Swift. And I would lean just slightly towards Joe Mixon. D from Texas, thank you so much for the support you've shown us today. D from Texas, thank you so much answering your question. Non-PPR, Pacheco, Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, pick 2. I'll go with Pacheco and I'll go with A.J. Dillon. D from Texas, I'll go Pacheco and A.J. Dillon. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Andrew, I do like Miles Sanders today as well. Miles Sanders is a good play for me as well. Not Caden 15, Hollywood Brown or Brandon Cooks. I thought Brandon Cooks was on the injury report. You might want to check. Make sure Brandon Cooks is playing today. I'm not crazy about Hollywood Brown. If Brandon Cooks is playing, I do like Brandon Cooks over Hollywood Brown, not Caden. A-Graz 70, A.J. Dillon or DeAndre Swift. A-Graz, I'd go DeAndre Swift. I'd go DeAndre Swift. I appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us, sharing the channel at Butt Fumble Sports. John Gonzalez 97 asks Dobson, Dobbs, Foreman, or Komet at the flex. I would go with Deontay Foreman. I would go with Deontay Foreman, John. Romeo Dobbs would be my number 2. Getting a question in from YouTube. Jets defense or 49ers defense? I would definitely go with the 49ers defense. Answering that question from YouTube, that's the 49ers defense. We just hit 25,000 likes because you guys are unbelievable and showing us so much support. Thank you so much for the follow, the likes, sharing our channel, and of course the gifts. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Our next poll question has to do with two teams playing today and which one will cover. Which team will cover the spread? Dolphins plus 2.5, Patriots minus 2.5. Smiley face for the Dolphins, crying face for the Patriots. Doing a quick poll. Here we go. Which team will cover the spread? Dolphins plus 2.5, Patriots minus 2.5. Interesting note, Teddy Bridgewater has never played against Bill Belichick and the Patriots in his career. Interesting note. Which team will cover the spread today? Smiling face, Dolphins plus 2.5. Crying face, Patriots minus 2.5. These two teams both have losing streaks right now. Dolphins 4-game losing streak, Patriots 2-game losing streak. We've seen how the Patriots have lost the last few weeks. Absolutely brutal. Which team will cover the spread today? Smiling face if you think it's the Dolphins plus 2.5. Crying face if you think it's the Patriots minus 2.5. This is both going off at minus 210. Or sorry, minus 110 as the odds. Which team will cover the spread? Smiling face, Dolphins plus 2.5. Crying face, Patriots minus 2.5. You guys have it as the Dolphins, and I agree with you. I like the Dolphins covering. I would buy the 1.5 just to make sure I'm on the better side of the field goal. But that said, I like the Dolphins to cover. Patriots have been really bad of late. I think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have really big games today. I'm not concerned about Teddy Bridgewater. He's one of the best backup options you can have if you are an NFL team. So I actually think that Teddy Bridgewater has a pretty good game. Mike McDaniel knows the scheme. Get the ball out quick. And the Patriots have a number of injuries to that secondary. Jack Jones and Marcus Jones are both out today. So that secondary is lacking some speed and some cornerback talent. So that said, I like the Dolphins to cover. Every time we hit another 5,000 likes, we do a quick poll. So we'll do a quick poll at 5,000 likes. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Appreciate all you guys supporting us. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions, Big Man Brady asks, DJ Moore, AJ Dillon, or Zach Moss? Ooh, interesting one. Big Man Brady, I'd lean just slightly towards... I'll lean slightly towards AJ Dillon. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate all the support you guys are showing us. Unbelievable community of buddies that we have following Butt Fumble Sports. Doug Teddy, should I start Jerry Jeudy? I wouldn't. Don't think it's a really good play. I would sit Jerry Jeudy. I'm kind of fading the entire Broncos offense. DWG0400 asks, Dotson, Cam Akers, Dobbins, or Zay Jones? On that one, I'm going to lean towards Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is actually got the best matchup, best option there. P. Maltby asks, Christian Kirk or Mike Evans? I have no faith right now in the Buccaneers passing game. For that reason, I'm going to lean just slightly towards Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk for me, P. Maltby. Drake London or Gabe Davis? Fatty from Chicago. Fatty, I would go with Gabe Davis. Fatty, I would go with Gabe Davis. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Jude asks McKinnon or Kenneth Walker III. On this one, I'll lean just slightly towards Jerick McKinnon. Just slightly. Not crazy about it. I think both are going to have similar games. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Gastro Dad 71, Algiers or Walker? I'll lean just slightly towards Tyler Algier on that one as well. Brock Purdy or Geno Smith? Nate the Great, I would go with Brock Purdy. I would go with Brock Purdy, Nate the Great. Eddie 19, Christian Kirk or Gabe Davis. I would go with Christian Kirk on that one. I would go with Christian Kirk. Appreciate all of you joining us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate all of you guys supporting us, joining us, sharing the channel with others. We only grow thanks to the support you guys show us. Bello 4411, thank you for your support. You ask Darius Slayton, Romeo Doubs, or Dortch. Bello 4411, I would go with Romeo Doubs, and my reason: Christian Watson's injury may help you, and Darius Slayton will have Stephon Gilmore covering him. The Colts defense might be bad, but Gilmore has played well, so I like Romeo Doubs, Bello. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Nathan asks Christian Kirk or Juju Smith-Schuster. I would go with Christian Kirk. I'd go Christian Kirk. Bryson Burke asks Devontae Smith or Hollywood Brown. Bryson Burke, I'd go Devontae Smith. Bryson Burke, I'd go Devontae Smith. Jake B, 2688 asks T. Higgins or Waddle. Jake, I would go with Jalen Waddle. By the way, no notable weather across the country today, so no worry about snow, rain, or some serious cold. Some good weather across the country for fantasy owners and bettors, so you should have a lot of opportunities for fantasy points today through the air. I'm not worried about the weather. If you do want to check out the weather in your matchup or in a game that you care about, check out NFLweather.com. This isn't a plug. They don't pay me. It's just a website that's really good, putting out good information, not just the weather at kickoff, but what the weather is going to be for each quarter of a game. So if you guys want good weather reports, check out NFLweather.com. Shawnee Golf asks, all right, I'm in my finals. Congratulations. Start 2. Mike Williams, Olave, Christian Kirk, or Garrett Wilson. Shawnee Golf, I'd go with Mike Williams, and I'd go with Garrett Wilson. Shawnee Golf, I'd go with Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson. To all of you fantasy owners, this is the biggest week of your season. Make sure you're throwing your question in the chat. Happy to answer all of them. T. Schultz 20 asks Josh Jacobs or Jerick McKinnon. I would lean just slightly towards Jerick McKinnon, believe it or not. I really don't like Josh Jacobs' matchup against the 49ers with a backup quarterback in there. Ben Roth 41, Fournette or Devontae Smith in a half PPR. Ben Roth, I'd lean slightly towards Devontae Smith. Ryan Finkel 10 asks Bam Knight or Ramondre Stevenson. That's a tough one for me. Ryan Finkel, I'm going to go towards Bam Knight, believe it or not. I think he's going to have a really big game. Bud Woods 10, appreciate all the support you show us. You're such a loyal follower. Bud Woods 10, thank you so much. A.J. Dillon or Devontae Smith. I'll lean just slightly towards A.J. Dillon. How many leagues am I in, Connor Zimmer? I'm currently in 4 leagues. I'm in my championship in 3 of them. I got knocked out of my other one last week. Sign Chun, Kirk, or Judy, I would go with Christian Kirk. Sign Chun, I'd go with Christian Kirk. Julio, Devontae Adams, or Montgomery, I would go with I would go with David Montgomery. Julio, I would go with David Montgomery. FinFan 1981 asks Justin Herbert or Justin Fields. Oh, that's a good question. I'll lean just slightly towards Justin Fields, FinFan. I'll lean slightly towards Justin Fields. Pacheco or Fournette. I would go with Pacheco. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Once we hit 30,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. So make sure you're hitting that like button as many times as you can. Again, once we hit 30,000 likes, we will do another quick poll question. So make sure you're hitting that like button as many times as you can. We will do another quick poll at 30,000 likes. Ginger, Romeo Doubs. I do like Romeo Doubs. I think the Christian Watson injury will absolutely affect that opportunity for you today. Hey, it's Mike87 asks Cam Akers or DJ Moore. I would lean just slightly towards Cam Akers, Mike. I'd lean slightly towards Cam Akers. Appreciate all of you guys hitting that like button. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. And of course, hit the share button as well. Tell family, friends, coworkers, people you know that we're going to be talking fantasy football and obviously answering your gambling questions right up until kickoff. We grow thanks to the support of this unbelievable Fumble Sports community. Fez 129 asks Christian Watson or Christian Kirk. Fez 129, I'm worried about Watson's injury. Hips and hamstrings are the two injuries to wide receivers that really concern me. I would lean just slightly towards Christian Kirk, Fez, because I am worried about Watson's hip. D-Tay55 asks Gardner Minshew or Deshaun Watson. D-Tay55, I would go with Gardner Minshew. I'd go Gardner Minshew. Juju Smith-Schuster, Pittman, or Cam Akers. I would go with Cam Akers for that one. L. Wenzel 28, I would go with Cam Akers. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. And of course, once we hit 30,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Zipper T. Washington, Waller or Njoku? Zipper T. Washington, I would go with David Njoku. Jerry Jeudy or Jacoby Myers? I would go with Jacoby Myers. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Cam Akers or Kenneth Walker III? Curry Mandrake, I would go with Cam Akers. I'd go with Cam Akers. Johnny Mac 73, PPR Flex, Evan Ingram or Kamara? I would lean just slightly towards Kamara. Johnny Mac, I'd lean slightly towards Kamara. Tate Kuhn 07, Evan Ingram or TJ Hawkinson? Tate, I'd go with TJ Hawkinson. I'd go TJ Hawkinson. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow us at Fumble Sports. We just hit 30,000 likes, so I'll get back to answering your fantasy questions in just 1 second, but we're going to do another quick poll. This one has to do with two wide receivers. Which one will get more fantasy points today? Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. Doing a quick poll because we had 30,000 likes. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. Here we go. We'll get back to answering your fantasy questions in just 1 second. But which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face Metcalf. This is by far the closest poll that we've done so far today. Let us know what you guys think. Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. This is by far our best poll of the day. Really competitive, back and forth. Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points today? Appreciate all of you joining us. We're going to get back to answering your fantasy questions in just a second. But this quick poll, because we hit 30,000 likes. Smiling face Garrett Wilson, crying face DK Metcalf. Which wide receiver will have more fantasy points? More fantasy points. Garrett Wilson, smiling face, crying face Metcalf. And at the end, DK Metcalf gets just enough votes. Wow, I can't believe at the very end, DK Metcalf came through. That said, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. I like Mike White coming back and getting the start for the Jets. Garrett Wilson's had good production with him at quarterback. That said, DK Metcalf is going to be covered by Sauce Gardner, arguably the best, if not, one of the top three cover cornerbacks right now in the NFL. So bad matchup for DK Metcalf. I like Garrett Wilson over DK Metcalf today. Every time we hit another 5,000 likes, we do a quick poll question just like that. So make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribing at Fumble Sports. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions, Chris Dines asks Montgomery, Jacobs, or Algier. On that one, Chris, I'd lean just slightly towards Tyler Algier. Mott for MSU, Start 2, Sutton, Dortch, or McLaurin. Man, I really don't like these options today. But on this one, I'll go with Cortland Sutton and Terry McLaurin. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. And unbelievable, we have now passed 30,000 followers on TikTok. We started this company, the sports media company, on the first day of the NFL season. The kickoff between the Bills and the Rams was our first day, and in 4 months, we now have 30,000 followers on TikTok. Thank you so much. We are so humbled and grateful for this community. We're not stopping. This is just the start. 2022 was a good year. 2023 is going to be a great year. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions, Jay Barlow, Aaron Rodgers or Gardner Minshew? I would go with Aaron Rodgers. I'd go with Aaron Rodgers. User 1234567 asks Jacobs, Knight, or Algier. I would go with Zonovan Knight. I would go with Zonovan Knight. Answering your questions from YouTube, which defense should you go with, Jets or 49ers? I would go with the 49ers defense. 49ers defense. Another question from YouTube, Cam Akers, Brown, or Smith? I would go with Cam Akers. Cam Akers. Last one from YouTube, Pacheco or Zonovan Knight? I would go with Zonovan Knight. I would go with Zonovan Knight. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Make sure you're joining this unbelievable community that we're building of Butt Fumble Sports buddies. We just have an unbelievable group. Lemon 24, Miles Sanders or Brian Robinson Jr.? Lemon 24, I'm going to lean towards Brian Robinson Jr. Leaning towards Brian Robinson Jr. Appreciate you liking and, of course, sharing the channel with others. We grow thanks to your support. Easton Ledden 14 asks Cam Akers or Mike Evans? Easton, I would go with Cam Akers. I'd go Cam Akers. Walker 01, start Damian Harris or Rashad White at an RB2. Walker, I would go with Rashad White. I would go with Rashad White. Damian Harris's health status has just been concerning me for weeks now. Jonah asks DJ Chark or Chuba Hubbard. Jonah, first, thank you for your support. I know you've been a big supporter of Butt Fumble Sports. Thank you so much. I would go with DJ Chark. And I'm sure I get your name wrong every single time, so forgive me. Jose Haro, 13, Christian Kirk or Zay Jones? I would go with Christian Kirk. I'd go Christian Kirk. Getting a question in from YouTube, DK Metcalf or Christian Watson? My concern here is Christian Watson has that hip injury. I would lean towards Christian Watson, but maybe you want to have someone, playing on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football just to be safe as a backup, but I prefer Christian Watson over DK Metcalf. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We have more than an hour and a half left in our show. We've gone for about an hour and a half. We have another hour and a half to go. Unbelievable how much fun I'm having just talking football. We don't have too much time left in the season, so enjoy it while you can. Hollywood Brown or Terry McLaurin? I would go with Terry McLaurin. B. Jovac, I'd go with Terry McLaurin. Jake Waters, 12, asks D-Hop or Jacobs? On this one, you got to go with Josh Jacobs because D-Hop isn't playing today. D-Hop is not playing. DeAndre Hopkins is not active. Once we hit 35,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question, so make sure you're hitting that like button. Once we hit 35,000 likes, we're doing another quick poll question. Liverpool 22 asks Mixon or Walker? On this one, I'm going to lean towards Joe Mixon. Bosstown 32, Judy or Juju? On that one, I'm going to lean towards Juju Smith-Schuster. Don't like either one, Bosstown, but Juju Smith-Schuster is the one I prefer because of the quarterback who's throwing him the ball. Mark asks, one flex, Chubb, Dillon, Kirk. I'll lean just slightly towards Nick Chubb. Mark, I'll lean towards Nick Chubb. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Hit that like button. Tom Hill 23, Rashad White or Khalil Herbert? Tom Hill, I'll lean slightly towards Khalil Herbert. Getting a question in from YouTube, Jacobs or Metcalf in the flex. On that one, I'll lean slightly towards DK Metcalf. I'm not crazy about it, but I'll lean slightly towards Metcalf. Starter, sit Lockett. Nick, I would start Lockett, depending obviously on who else you have. But for the most part, I like Lockett in part because I think DK Metcalf is shut down. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us. Unbelievable community that we have. Thoughts on Davante Adams this week? I don't like him. I don't like Jared Stidham. I've seen the guy play. I'm not a fan. Higgins, Cooper, or Davante Adams, and Kittle or Andrews. Okay, I would go with T. Higgins. I'd go with T. Higgins, and I would go with George Kittle. Higgins and Kittle out of that question. Dalvin Cook or Tyler Algier. I love Dalvin Cook today. He's good for an anytime touchdown. It's one of my favorite player prop bets of the day. Dalvin Cook is averaging about a touchdown a game against the Green Bay Packers in his career, so I like Dalvin Cook today. Lag 1689, Tom Brady or Brock Purdy. I would definitely go with Brock Purdy, believe it or not. Brock Purdy. 123, La Familia asks, 2 flex, Jacobs, Connor, Akers, or Algier. On this one, I would go with Cam Akers, and I'll lean towards Tyler Algier. That's Akers and Algier. Thank you so much. Happy 2023 to all of you. I hope you're having a wonderful new year. I hope it's a blessed, safe, and very fortunate 2023 for all of you. Appreciate all of your guys' support. Getting a question in from YouTube, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel at Fumble Sports. Deontay Johnson or Amari Cooper considering matchups today. I'll lean just slightly towards Amari Cooper. Another question from YouTube, Alvin Kamara or Leonard Fournette. On this one, I'd go with Alvin Kamara. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Mel6267, appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Thank you. Najee, Foreman, Evans, or Montgomery in the flex position. On this one, I'll lean slightly towards Deontay Foreman. Just ahead of Montgomery, Mel626. Thank you for your support. Danny asks McKinnon or Moss. Danny, I would go with McKinnon. I'd go with McKinnon because he's been good for an anytime touchdown pretty consistently. Another question from YouTube, Darren Waller or Gerald Everett. I would go with Gerald Everett. Over Darren Waller. Another question from YouTube, Cam Akers or Zonovan Knight. I'd lean just slightly towards Zonovan Knight. I think both players have good games, but I'll go with Zonovan Knight. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Hubby Life 956 asks, Mac Jones or Teddy Bridgewater. I prefer Teddy Bridgewater. Mac Jones has been worse at home than he has been on the road. Bridgewater, they're going to get the ball out fast. Teddy Two Gloves, he's not going to be concerned about the cold. He's played in Minnesota in the cold before they had a dome stadium in that crazy off year. So I like Teddy Bridgewater. 1Sev17 asks, Cam Akers or Garrett Wilson? Ooh, tough one. I'll lean just slightly towards Cam Akers. I like both of them, but I'll lean slightly towards Cam Akers. Aiden Wart asks, Patterson, Dobbins, or Foreman? On that one, I'll lean just slightly towards Deontay Foreman. Aiden asks, Walker or Swift? I'm going DeAndre Swift. Is Gabriel Davis worth playing? I think so. I think Gabe Davis is worth playing. Depends who you have, obviously, but I think so. Texas Trucker 8. Hope you're having a great day. Dawson Knox or Tyler Higbee? I go Tyler Higbee ever since Baker Mayfield took over that starting quarterback job. The tight end position has come alive again. I like Higbee. Brennan asks, Allen or Fields? I'd go with Justin Fields. He's got the better matchup. Better matchup. Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. This was one of our earlier poll questions. The audience went with Kirk Cousins. I went with Aaron Rodgers. The Minnesota Vikings defense against the pass is just terrible, so I actually prefer Aaron Rodgers. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. And of course, once we hit 35,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. Another question in from YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube page. Should I play Juju Smith-Schuster or Amari Cooper? Out of those two, I would go with Amari Cooper. I'd go with Amari Cooper over Juju. I expect Juju to be covered by Patrick Surtain the second. That's the reason I go with Amari Cooper. Another question from YouTube. McKinnon, Algier, Fournette, Sanders, Montgomery. Pick one in a PPR, please, and thank you. I would go with Miles Sanders. I would go with Miles Sanders on that one. One last question from YouTube before we go back to answering the questions on TikTok Live. Darius Slayton or DJ Moore? I would go with DJ Moore. He's been much better with Sam Darnold at quarterback, and Slayton's going to have Stephon Gilmore covering him, so not crazy about it. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Rusty Avocados asks, in a non-PPR, Ramondre Stevenson or McKinnon? Rusty Avocados, I would go Ramondre Stevenson. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate all the support you guys show us. Just unbelievable. You guys are an unbelievable community, audience. We are so grateful to have all of you guys following, joining us, making us a part of your NFL Sundays. Pick two, Jacobs, Chubb, Higgins, or Jones. I would go with T. Higgins, and I would go with Aaron Jones. I'd go with T. Higgins and Aaron Jones. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. The Poke G asks, Goddard, Hollywood Brown. I would definitely go with Dallas Goedert, the Poke G. I would go with Dallas Goedert. Once we hit 35,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. So make sure you're following us and hitting that like button. Jordan Hubler asks, Pacheco, Dobbins, Sutton, or Pickens? I would go with J.K. Dobbins, Jordan. I'd go with J.K. Dobbins. Constant 1258 asks, Aaron Jones, Pacheco, Ayuk, or Akers? Pick two. Constant, I would go with Aaron Jones, and I would go with Cam Akers. Constant, I'd go Aaron Jones, and I'd go Cam Akers. Jones or Purdy? D. Moyhan, 15. That's a kind of a bit of a toss-up. I think both could have good games. I'll lean just slightly towards Brock Purdy. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Once we just hit 35,000 likes, so we will do a quick poll question in just 1 second. Etienne or Singletary? No-brainer for me. That's Travis Etienne. Colton, need a flex. Osborne, Richie James, or Romeo Dobbs? That's an easy one, Colton. I would go with Romeo Dobbs. Aaron asks, Slayton or Moore? I would go with Moore, as long as that's DJ Moore. I prefer DJ Moore. Appreciate all of you joining us. Going to do another quick poll question. This one, because we just hit 35,000 likes, you guys are absolutely incredible. I will get back to answering your fantasy questions in just 1 second. But our next quick poll question, which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. Doing a quick poll question. Here we go. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence out to a really big start. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. Which one do you guys think? Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you follow us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points today? Smiling face Daniel Jones, crying face Trevor Lawrence. So you guys are saying Trevor Lawrence by a mile. I agree with you, but I would warn Daniel Jones is going to have a really good fantasy day. Daniel Jones is good for a rushing touchdown today. It's actually one of my favorite player prop bets of the day. I like Daniel Jones anytime touchdown at home. He's had 4 rushing touchdowns. I feel like he's good for another one, so I really like that one. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions, jumping in. Oh, Cloudbread, that's kind of cool. Thank you so much, Emanu2123. Getting back to answering your fantasy questions, Emanu2123 asks, pick 2, McLaurin or DJ Moore? I would go with DJ Moore, Emanu. I would go with DJ Moore. Your other question is Hawkinson or Goddard? I would go with TJ Hawkinson. I would go with TJ Hawkinson. So, Emanu, that's DJ Moore and TJ Hawkinson. Ben asks, Ayuk, Akers, Montgomery, pick 2. I would go with Cam Akers, and I'd go David Montgomery, Ben. Cam Akers and David Montgomery. Appreciate all of you guys joining us and supporting us. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We've been going for about an hour and a half. We go for about an hour and a half more, taking you right up until 1 p.m. kickoff. Logan McCaffrey asks, Allen or Purdy? I would go with Brock Purdy, believe it or not. I might go with Brock Purdy. And then Amari Cooper or Higbee at the flex. I would go with, I'd go with Amari Cooper. I know Higbee's been hot, but I think Amari Cooper is the better play. Okay, answering some questions we've gotten in from YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that like button and make sure you're following us on YouTube, subscribing on YouTube. Aaron Jones or Miles Sanders? I'll lean just slightly towards Miles Sanders. Start 3, Kamara, Chubb, Algier, Pacheco, Ayuk, Myers. Okay, if I'm starting 3, I would go with Chubb, Algier, and Kamara. And as for Ayuk or Jacoby Myers, I would go with Brandon Ayuk. Gabe Davis, Hollywood Brown, Zay Jones, Mike Evans, pick 2. I would go with Gabe Davis, and I'd go with Zay Jones. Should I play Amari Cooper or Zonovan Knight? I would go with Zonovan Knight. Last question from YouTube before I get back to answering TikTok live questions. Kenneth Walker III, Josh Jacobs, or Foreman? I'll lean just slightly towards Deontay Foreman on that one. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Once we hit 40,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Emanu2123, Jaguars defense or Giants defense or Chargers defense? I'll lean just slightly towards the Giants defense, Emanu. I'll lean slightly towards the Giants defense over the Jags. Will J 78, full PPR, Christian Kirk or Dotson? Will J, I'd go Christian Kirk. I'll go Christian Kirk. Noah Sanchez, Trevor Lawrence or Kirk Cousins? Noah, I would go with Kirk Cousins. Noah, I would go with Kirk Cousins. Profit NG, gotta start 2. Evans, Myers, Hollywood Brown, or Zay Jones? I would go with Zay Jones, and I'll lean just slightly towards Mike Evans, though I'm not crazy about it. 415 OG22, Judy, Mike Williams, or Cooper? 415 OG, I'd go Mike Williams. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports, and of course, share the channel with others. Let others know about Fumble Sports. Jaguars defense or Giants defense? I'd lean just slightly towards the Giants defense. Mel626, thank you for your support this morning. So appreciate the support we've gotten from such incredible, loyal followers. D. Alt, Dylan, Fournette, Dobbins, and Algier. I need 3 out of the 4. The one I would sit is Leonard Fournette then. D. Alt, I would sit Leonard Fournette. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us. Make sure you're hitting that like button. And of course, make sure you're following at Fumble Sports. Jaguars defense or Giants defense? Tom Hill, 23. Giants defense is the play for me. Tom Hill, 23. I'd go with the Giants defense. Bimmy Juckets, Nick Chubb or Brian Robinson? I would go with Brian Robinson. Uncle Tony, 24-25. Akers, Lockett, Judy, pick 1. Uncle Tony, I'd go Cam Akers. 21, Rog, Gardner Minshew or Mike White. I'm going to lean just slightly towards Gardner Minshew. Leaning slightly towards Minshew. Answering a fantasy question in from YouTube. Moss, Myers, Lazard, or Dotson, full PPR, pick 2. I would go with Zach Moss, and I would go with Alan Lazard. Another question in from YouTube. Minshew or White? Answered that one a second ago. I would go with Gardner Minshew. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. If you want to get my player prop bets of the day, check it out on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on Instagram at ButtFumble Sports. Matt K. Lap, full PPR, Goddard or Ayuk at the flex. Matt, I would go with Brandon Ayuk. Matt, I'd go Brandon Ayuk. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. David asks, Minshew or Russell Wilson? Gotta go Gardner Minshew. Can't trust Russell Wilson. Can't trust him. Gardner Minshew is the play. Chris Dines asks, Amari Cooper or Lockett? I'll lean just slightly towards Tyler Lockett. Just slightly. I'm Old School asks, 49ers defense or Tampa Bay defense? This is a no-brainer. You got to go 49ers defense. We've been going for an hour and 40 minutes. We have an hour and 20 minutes to go. 80 minutes until kickoff of the 1 p.m. games. Answering all of your NFL Week 17 questions. It can be game picks, total plays, player prop bets, and of course, fantasy questions. So keep throwing them in there. Whether it's on YouTube or on TikTok, we're answering all of your questions. Outlier.bet. Dude, love your content. Shoot us a DM. We absolutely will. Hit us up at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. DM us if you want to work together, collaborate, or just get more of our advice. We're always here for you at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Minshew or Geno Smith. This is a bit of a tough one for me. Both have tough matchups against the pass. I'll lean just slightly towards Gardner Minshew. That's more because of what I saw last week. Geno Smith struggled, Minshew played well, but I'm not crazy about either one. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing. We answer your questions on YouTube as well. A couple of them that we've gotten. Foreman, DJ Moore, AJ Dillon, or Jerick McKinnon. One flex spot. Who do you got? On this one, I'll lean towards Deontay Foreman. I'll go with Deontay Foreman. Another question from YouTube. Isaiah Pacheco or Zonovan Knight? I love Zonovan Knight today. If you're doing daily fantasy, Zonovan Knight's a great play. Also, weekly fantasy, I really like Zonovan Knight. Another question from YouTube. Pick one, Sutton, Myers, or Pickens. I'd go with George Pickens. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. DeBrash, or however you say your name, so appreciate the support you show us. You've been such a loyal follower this season. Your question, Zay Jones or David Montgomery? I would go with David Montgomery just slightly. Is Trevor Lawrence a good start? I think so. I think he's going to play. I think the running game of the Jaguars is going to start today, but I do think Trevor Lawrence has a good game against the Houston Texans. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Once we hit 40,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. And of course, hit that share button. Let others know that we're talking football for another hour and 20 minutes. Make sure that you let family and friends know that they can get their fantasy lineup help or gambling help right here at ButtFumble Sports. John Gonzalez, 97. Dotson or Romeo Dobbs? John, I like Romeo Dobbs. Dive Coach Dave. Dotson or Judy in a full PPR? Dive Coach, I like Jahan Dotson. Question from YouTube. Brandon Cooks or Zonovan Knight? I love Zonovan Knight. That's an easy one for me. It's Zonovan Knight. Walker 01. Njoku or Goddard in a PPR? Tough one for me. I'll lean just slightly towards David Njoku. Thank you, John. Howdy and happy 2023 to all of you. Hope you're having a wonderful new year. I hope it's a safe, successful, and very fortunate 2023 for all of you. Aaron, 21X, Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs, or Zach Moss. I'd go with Cam Akers. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us. And once we hit 40,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Bullet Kicks asks, pick 2, Akers, Montgomery, or McKinnon. I would go with Cam Akers, and I'd lean just slightly towards McKinnon. Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert. On this one, I would go with Justin Herbert. Sam Katz 7, Jerry Jeudy or Drake London. I would go with Drake London. Dotson or Romeo Doubs. I'd go Romeo Doubs. Kirk Cousins, Purdy, or Mike White. I would go with Kirk Cousins. I'd go with Kirk Cousins out of that 3 group. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports and hit that like button. Once we hit 40,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Rich Mutt 007 asks, Cooks, Lockett, or Goddard. Pick 2. I don't like Brandon Cooks today, so I'll go with Lockett and Goddard. Landon asks Goddard or Ingram. On that one, I'm going Evan Ingram. I'd go Evan Ingram. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you know every time we go live. So make sure you subscribe. We'll be going live at random times throughout the next few weeks with playoff action. So if you like player prop bets, gambling advice, make sure you're subscribing to the channel at Fumble Sports. Mario asks, pick 3, Devontae Smith, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, or Garrett Wilson. That's an easy one for me, Mario. I would sit Devontae Adams. I would start Smith, Higgins, and Wilson, Mario, and I would sit Devontae Adams. Non-PPR Carter asks Devontae Adams or Tyler Algier. I'd go with Tyler Algier. I have no faith in the Raiders' passing or running game today. I don't like the decision they made to sit Derek Carr. I understand they did it because they're going to trade him, but... Maddox asks Montgomery or Akers. I would lean towards Cam Akers. Dalton or Kamara. I would go with Kamara. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. If you have Jared Goff today, I feel like he's a must-play no matter who else you have. Jared Goff is one of my favorite quarterbacks of the day. I also really like Zonovan Knight. I could see Zonovan Knight having a really good game. A few other players that I really like today: Aaron Rodgers, Cam Akers, Dalvin Cook, Brian Robinson, Travis Etienne. Those are some of the players I really like today. On the other side, I really like Stephon Diggs at wide receiver on Monday Night Football and Jamar Chase, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not too many people have been asking about Amon-Ra St. Brown and bring his name up. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown today. Feel like he's a great play. At tight end, George Kittle. George Kittle is a great play for me. And I also really like Evan Ingram and Tyler Higbee. Those are a few of the tight ends that I really like today. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Mel626, thank you for the support you've shown us today. Who would you start? Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, Wentz, or Ritter? I would start Sam Darnold, believe it or not. Sam Darnold has thrown 1 touchdown in every game he's started this year, and he has not thrown a pick this year. So I'd probably go with Sam Darnold, believe it or not. Show Burnt 2, Judy or Waddle. That's an easy one for me, Show Burt. I would go with Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is going to have a great day for me. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Broski asks Kmet or Mark Andrews. Broski, I would go with Cole Kmet. Colby Colston asks Pacheco or Michael Pittman. I would go with Pacheco on that one. Getting a question in from YouTube, Stevenson or Etienne? I'd lean just slightly towards Etienne at the flex to answer that YouTube question. One more question in from YouTube before we go back to answering TikTok live questions. Pick 2, Amari Cooper, Dotson, Jamal Williams, Rashad White, London, or Dobbins. Okay, I would go with Jamal Williams, and I'd go J.K. Dobbins. To answer that question from YouTube, Jamal Williams and J.K. Dobbins. Once we hit 40,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question, so make sure you're hitting that like button as many times as you can. Let's hit 40,000 likes so we can do that quick poll question. Jay Smith asks, Zay Jones or Bam Knight? I like Bam Knight. Dylan B, Evans, Hodgins, Dortch, or Moss at the flex. I prefer Zach Moss, I think, over Mike Evans, just barely. Dilla asks, Kmet, Njoku, or Waller. I would go with Cole Kmet. Alec asks, A.J. Brown or Tyler Algier. Alec, I would go with A.J. Brown. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. Jonathan asks, Metcalf or Judy. I think Metcalf has a brutal matchup, but I still prefer him over Jerry Jeudy because it means it would be a Russell Wilson pick. Appreciate all of you guys joining us and supporting us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. Josiah Vincent 1, Big Homie, Foreman or Swift in a half PPR rushing attempt. Ooh, I'll lean just slightly towards DeAndre Swift, just slightly. We just hit 40,000 likes. You guys are unbelievable. Thank you so much for the support you guys have shown us. We have now got 30,000 followers on TikTok. You guys are an unbelievable community. Because we hit 40,000 likes, we will do another quick poll question. So make sure you engage for this. Our quick poll question is, which team will cover? This next poll question, which team will cover the spread today? Which team will cover the spread? Smiling face, Vikings plus 3.5. Crying face, Packers minus 3.5. One more time before I start the poll. Which team will cover the spread today? Vikings plus 3.5. Packers minus 3.5. Doing this quick poll question. Here we go. Make sure you follow us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. Which team will cover the spread? Smiling face, Vikings plus 3.5. Crying face, Packers minus 3.5. Make sure you're following us. The poll question, because we had 40,000 likes, which team will cover the spread? Smiling face, Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5. Crying face, Packers minus 3.5. Smiling face, Vikings plus 3.5. Crying face, Packers minus 3.5. Which one will cover the spread? Appreciate all of you joining us at ButtFumble Sports. Make sure you're following and subscribing. And it looks like you guys are on the same side as me. I like the Packers on the money line, but I like the Vikings to cover. I'm going to buy the 1.5. I buy the 1.5. A lot of you guys ask when I put out my pick videos, why do I take the 1.5? Because I like cashing tickets. And if Vegas thinks that I have slightly better odds in a certain direction, I want to get as much of a gain on Vegas as possible. So I'll put in the extra unit and a half or whatever it may take. I'll take worse odds, minus 140 rather than minus 115 or whatever. But I like cashing tickets and getting money. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We're coming up on about an hour and 10 minutes to go, hour and 5 minutes to go before kickoff of the 1 p.m. games. So make sure you're following. Make sure you're getting your questions in. I'll answer all of your questions right up until kickoff. DeBrosh, thank you so much for kind of managing the chat, making sure everyone's getting their answers. I like Trevor Lawrence, just slightly over Geno. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Gabe, I would go with Romeo Dobbs. Gabe 2-0, I'd go Romeo Dobbs. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. If you have questions on who to start, who to sit, game picks, total plays, player prop bets, I'm here to answer all of them. Massive asks Cam Akers or Alvin Kamara. I would go with Cam Akers. Cam Akers. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Rigbone asks Lawrence or Minshew. Trevor Lawrence. Zay Jones or Pittman. I would go with Zay Jones, Roger. I'd go Zay Jones. Nick Bates asks Hawkinson or Ingram. I lean just slightly towards Evan Ingram, I think, over Hawkinson. I think both have really good games, though. Randy H749. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. Who do I have in that game? Well, I love Pittsburgh to cover. They're one of my two best bets of the day. If you want to check out my two best bets, go check out my Twitter account at SportsFumble or my Instagram account at ButtFumbleSports. Pittsburgh covering is one of my two best bets of the day. So I like Pittsburgh to cover, and I love the under in that game as well, Randy. So Pittsburgh to cover and the under in that game. Short stuff, 27-3. I would go with Brian Robinson over Montgomery. Short stuff, I'd go with Brian Robinson. JD asks Waddle or Aaron Jones in a full PPR. Jay, I would go with Jalen Waddle. Cody asks Etienne or Eckler. I would go with Austin Eckler just slightly, only because I could see Etienne sitting in the second half. That said, I think Etienne's going to have a really big game as well. Your boy LA25, Chargers defense or Giants defense? Your boy LA, I would go with the Giants defense. Giants defense is a must start for me. Steve asks Kenneth Walker III or Brian Robinson in a PPR. I would go with Brian Robinson. Let It Ride asks Metcalf, Godwin, Foreman, Dobbins, Pacheco in a full point start. I would go with... I lean just slightly towards Foreman. Godwin's also on my radar, though. Tony GA, I would go with DJ Chark. Tony GA 67, I'd go DJ Chark. Ryan asks Cam Akers, Christian Kirk, or Hollywood Brown. You need two. Easy one for me then. I'd go Cam Akers and Christian Kirk. Answering a question from YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing and following us on YouTube. Flex, Pittman, Chark, Jahan Dotson. I would go with DJ Chark. I'd go DJ Chark. Pittsburgh defense or Buffalo defense? You got to go with the Pittsburgh defense. No doubt about it, Chris. You got to go with the Pittsburgh defense. Brandon Cooks or Adam Thielen? I would go with Adam Thielen. I'd go Adam Thielen. Lockett or Watson? I would go with Lockett just because I'm concerned about Watson hip. When it comes to a wide receiver injury, hip and hamstring are the two injuries that concern me the most because I feel like those are the two that come up in a game most frequently, so I'm worried about that. The Pope G, Goddard or Hollywood Brown? I absolutely would go with Dallas Goedert. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports and hitting that like button. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. Freshly Squeezed asked Jalen Waddle or Najee Harris. I would go with Jalen Waddle. Answering all of your fantasy questions. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow button at Butt Fumble Sports. Christian asks, to those, by the way, who are trying to join the conversation, we're not going to do that today. I'm only answering fantasy football questions, so appreciate that you want to join the conversation. But today, we're only answering fantasy and NFL gambling questions. That's what the people want. That's what they're going to get. Buzzy Boy Ben asks, Juju, Hollywood Brown, Garrett Wilson, or Olave, pick two. I would go with Garrett Wilson, and I would go with Olave. That's Wilson and Olave. Lawrence or Jones? I lean just slightly towards Trevor Lawrence, Cole. I lean slightly towards Trevor Lawrence, just slightly. Dobbins or Moss? I'll lean slightly towards Zach Moss, just slightly. Rots 2333 asks Metcalf or Judy. I would go with DK Metcalf. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports and keep hitting that like button. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. RME626 asks Cam Akers or Kenneth Walker III. I'm going with Cam Akers. Appreciate all of you joining us at Fumble Sports. Huncho Salazar, appreciate your support. When you give a gift just like Huncho did, a little icon shows up next to your name, makes it really easy to find you in the chat. I'll definitely answer those questions with priority. Huncho, Josh Jacobs or Amari Cooper at the flex. Huncho Salazar, I would go with Amari Cooper. Huncho Salazar, I would go with Amari Cooper. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Trev McCarthy, thank you for your gift. Pick 2, Amari Cooper, Dotson, Ingram, or Fournette. I would go with Amari Cooper and Evan Ingram. I would go with Amari Cooper and Evan Ingram, Trev McCarthy. That's Amari Cooper and Evan Ingram, Trev McCarthy. Appreciate all of you joining us at Fumble Sports. Kyle Bond 6. Kyle Bond 6, thank you for your support. Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence. Kyle Bond 6, I would go with Justin Herbert. Kyle Bond 6, I would go with Justin Herbert. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us, following, sharing the channel. You guys are absolutely incredible. We're so grateful for your support. Thank you so much. Answering all of your questions right up until kickoff at 1 p.m. Zonovan Knight or Olave. Max, I would go with Zonovan Knight. I'd absolutely go with Zonovan Knight. Garrett asks Algier, Akers, or McKinnon. Garrett, I lean towards Cam Akers. Luprio, DJ Chark or Hodgins. I'd go with DJ Chark. Adam asks Josh Allen or Justin Fields. I'd go with Justin Fields. Appreciate all of you guys joining and supporting us. Debrach, I always get your name wrong, I feel like, but thank you so much for your support. Because they gave a gift, the little icon shows up next to their name, makes it easy to find them in the chat. Gabe Davis or Zay Jones. That's a tough one for me. I'll lean just slightly, I think, towards Zay Jones. I'm not crazy about it. I'm going to lean slightly towards Zay Jones, just because Gabe Davis has been a bit hit or miss this year. And should I start Giants defense in both of my leagues or the Steelers defense? I'm absolutely starting the Giants defense. Giants defense. Answering all of your fantasy questions. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. We only have 1 hour to go. We've been going for 2 hours straight. Yeah, I'm tired, but I'm having a lot of fun answering all of your fantasy questions. Enjoying this so much. We only have 1 hour left until kickoff. So make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're sharing the channel. 1 hour to go. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. John asks, Mixon, Kamara, Foreman, or Moss. I would go with Joe Mixon, and I'd go Deontay Foreman. Mixon and Foreman. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Mr. Andre 7, Godwin, or Devontae Smith. I would go with Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin. Trev McCarthy, thank you for your support so much. Money 3287, Mac Jones or Geno Smith. No brainer, you got to go Geno Smith. Zane Travis 5, Evan Ingram or Lockett. I'd go just slightly towards Evan Ingram. Do I wait for Christian Watson and play Dobbs if he's out? Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us, following us. Make sure you're hitting that like button as many times as you can. And of course, keep throwing in your fantasy questions. Jake Adamson 02, thank you for your support. Jake Adamson asks, Dawson Knox or Darren Waller. Jake, I would go with Dawson Knox. Jake, I would go with Dawson Knox. Scott, my RT1. Pick 2, Robinson, Najee Harris, Stevenson, or Swift. I would go with Stevenson and Swift. I'd go Stevenson and Swift. Hollywood Brown or Kenneth Walker III. I would go with Kenneth Walker III. Appreciate all of you joining us, supporting us, following us. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Coach Hayden asks Jacobs or Kamara. I'd go Alvin Kamara. Romeo Dobbs, Zay Jones, or DJ Chark. I lean just slightly towards DJ Chark. We've been going for 2 hours straight. We have 1 more hour to go. Make sure you're throwing in your fantasy questions. I'll answer all of them. Don't worry, getting to all of your fantasy questions. Pick 2, Mixon, Devontae Smith, or Garrett Wilson. I'd go with Mixon and Wilson. Mixon and Wilson. Brandon Foley asks Amari Cooper or Juju. I would go with Amari Cooper. Fields or Herbert. I would go with Justin Fields. Mike Williams, Juju, Lazard, Watson, Waddle, or Ayuk. You need 3. The 3 I'd go with, Robert, are Mike Williams, Waddle, and I'd lean towards Watson, but if he can't go, you have Lazard right there to help you out, so you're in a good spot. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. Gibson Trucking, thank you for your support. Gibson Trucking asks, pick 2, Judy, Sutton, Deontay Johnson, or Dotson. Ooh, tough one. Pick 2. Okay, Gibson Trucking, I'd go Deontay Johnson, and I'd lean just slightly towards Cortland Sutton, just slightly. J.R. Walters, thank you for your support. You ask Ayuk or Lazard. J.R. Walters, I would go with Brandon Ayuk. J.R. Walters, I'd go Brandon Ayuk. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Crypto Truck asks, Suck Up, Gay, or Dicker. I would go with Dicker the kicker in your championship matchup. I would go with Dicker the kicker. Getting a question in from YouTube. Oh, Damian Skyberg, thank you so much, man. You're the best. Thank you so much, Damian Skyberg. That's awesome. Question coming in from YouTube, answering that question. Pick 2, McKinnon, Fournette, or Algier. I would go with Jerick McKinnon and Tyler Algier to answer the question from YouTube. That's McKinnon and Algier. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Damian Skyberg, thank you for your support. Your question, please pick 1 for flex. Stevenson, Johnson, Judy, Damian Skyberg. I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. The Pope, 501, asks Swift, DJ Moore, Walker, or Ingram. The Pope, I would go with DeAndre Swift. OSU 377 asks Bam Knight, Dotson, Dobbins, picking for the flex in a PPR league. I would go with Zonovan Knight. OSU 377, I'd go with Zonovan Knight. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. If you want our player prop bets, check out our Twitter account at SportsFumble on Twitter and at ButtFumble Sports on Instagram. You can check out all of our player prop bets at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Christian Watson or Scary Terry. I'll lean just slightly towards Christian Watson. I'm a little worried, Angel, about his health, but I prefer him. Sutton or Juju. Zach Wiley, I would go with Cortland Sutton. I'd go with Cortland Sutton. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. A question that we're getting in from YouTube, Brandon Ayuk or Amari Cooper. I would go with Amari Cooper just slightly Amari Cooper. As for Metcalf or Garrett Wilson, another question from YouTube, I would go with Garrett Wilson over Metcalf. Make sure you're following and subscribing at ButtFumble Sports. We've been going live for 2 hours and 10 minutes almost. We have about 50 minutes left to go. Make sure you're throwing in your questions at ButtFumble Sports and hitting that like button. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. Shang FR for this week, is Trevor Lawrence a start over Brock Purdy? Yeah, I think he is, just barely. Jess Cruz 221 asks Lazard, Dotson, Chark, Adams, Kirk, pick 3. I would go with Chark, Kirk, and Lazard. Dynamic Adam asks Myers, Lazard, Lockett, Brown, pick 2 in a full PPR. I would go with Tyler Lockett and I would go with Jacoby Myers just because it's a full PPR. That's Lockett and Myers. I'd go with Myers just because it's a full PPR. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. We have gotten over 30,000 followers. We hit that benchmark today. Such a milestone for us as a company. Make sure you're a part of it. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Jay Lope Dog, appreciate your support, Jay Lope Dog. Make sure that everyone follows him as well. He's a great follow. Dolphins season in Teddy's two-glove. Do they win? I don't know if the Dolphins win, but I really like the Dolphins to cover that game. Dolphins covering is a bet that I really like. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Jess Cruz, 221. I answered your question just a moment ago, Jess Cruz. I would go with Chark, Kirk, and Lazard. Chark, Kirk, and Lazard, Jess Cruz. G Clips asks, DJ Chark or Deontay Johnson? I would go with DJ Chark. DJ Chark. Make sure you're following and make sure you're hitting that like button. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll be doing another quick poll question. Make sure you're hitting that like button at Fumble Sports. Hit that like button as many times as you can. Dylan B11, Moss, Hodgins, Dortch. I would lean just slightly towards Zach Moss, Dylan. I'd lean slightly towards Zach Moss. You can hit that like button as many times as you want. It doesn't limit you to one, so hit it as many times as you can. Let's get to 45,000 likes and do another quick poll. A.O. Boomin, I would go with Justin Fields. A.O. Boomin, I'd go Justin Fields. Big Ben asks Tyler Algier or Miles Sanders. I'd go with Miles Sanders. Dynamic Adam, appreciate your support. Guys, thank you so much for the support you guys have been showing us. Make sure you follow us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll. We'll do another quick poll question, so make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Stearns, 18, asks Fields or Rodgers. I'm going to lean towards Justin Fields just slightly. Tad, 66, asks Nick Chubb, Algier, Zay Jones. Pick one, full PPR. Tad, if I'm picking just one, I'll lean just towards Nick Chubb just slightly. Getting a question in from YouTube, Jamal Williams or J.K. Dobbins. I'll go with Jamal Williams. I'll go Jamal Williams. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Once we hit 45,000 likes, we'll do another quick poll question. Stoned Immaculate asks, first of all, awesome name, Stoned Immaculate. Dobbins, Zay Jones in a non-PPR. I would go with J.K. Dobbins, Stoned. I'd go J.K. Dobbins. Ramondre Stevenson or Garrett Wilson. I'd lean just slightly towards Ramondre Stevenson. We just hit 45,000 likes. Thank you guys so much for the support. We'll do a quick poll question. We'll do one quick poll question here. Okay, who will have more fantasy points this week? Here's a quick poll question. Smiley face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points this week? Smiling face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Let's do a quick poll question. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points this week? Smiling face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Let us know what you guys think. Doing a quick poll question. Let us know what you guys think. At Fumble Sports, which quarterback will have more fantasy points this week? Smiley face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Throw in your answer. Let us know what you guys think. Smiling face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Smiley face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Let us know what you guys think. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points this week? Smiling face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Which quarterback will have more fantasy points this week? Smiling face, Josh Allen, crying face, Joe Burrow. Oh, my voice is starting to go after 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Our audience has kind of gotten a little small. I'm going to stop the chat and I'm going to start right back up. That usually gets us a bigger audience right away. So I'm going to stop down for 1 second. We will be right back. So join us if you're on. We're just going to boost ourselves one quick time. So join us right back. We'll be right back answering your questions. We're just going to stop down and join real quick. Answering all of your fantasy football and gambling questions for NFL Week 17. If you've got questions, we've got answers. Throw them in the chat. Game picks, total plays, player prop bets. We're here for all of it, answering all of your fantasy football questions. So make sure you're throwing your questions in the chat. We're here for all of it. John's question, Dotson, Jacoby Myers, Najee Harris, or Donovan Peoples-Jones for the flex? I'll lean just slightly towards Najee Harris, John. I'm leaning slightly towards Najee Harris. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Answering all of your fantasy questions. If you've got questions about Week 17 in any way, we've got answers. Aiden asks, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers. I would go with Cam Akers, Aiden. Sean asks, Chiefs defense or Giants defense? Sean, I would go with the Giants defense. Mr. Andre 7, Josh Jacobs or Cam Akers? Mr. Andres, I would go with Cam Akers. Answering a question from our YouTube channel, Jamal Williams or J.K. Dobbins? I'd go with Jamal Williams. Make sure you're throwing in your question. Anything related to NFL Week 17, game pick, total play, player prop bet, or a fantasy question. We're here for all of it. Make sure you're following us. Should you start Garrett Wilson? Awesome. I would absolutely start Garrett Wilson. Think he's a good play. Cool Socks asks Zonovan Knight or Jamal Williams. I'll lean just slightly towards Jamal Williams, though I do love Zonovan Knight this week. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Philip asks, full PPR, Dobbins, Foreman, or Ramondre Stevenson, pick two. I would go with Foreman and Stevenson. Philip, I'd go Foreman and Stevenson. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Alan James asks Sutton or Slayton. Alan, I would go with Cortland Sutton. Alan, I'd go Cortland Sutton. Bad, I would go A.J. Dillon over Zay Jones just slightly. A.J. Dillon just slightly. Mr. Kavanaugh, Judy or Hollywood Brown. Hate both of them. I'll lean just slightly towards Judy, I guess, but I hate both of them. Feel like there's a better wide receiver to find off the waiver wire, even in these final few minutes. Pierre asks, pick two, Algier, Chark, Dotson, and Juju. Pierre, I would go with Algier and DJ Chark. Algier and DJ Chark. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Nikki asks, Lazard or Hollywood Brown? I would go with Lazard, Nikki. I would go with Lazard. Danny asks, Ramondre Stevenson or Robinson? Tough one for me, Danny. I'll lean just slightly towards Brian Robinson, just slightly. The Poke G asks Goddard or Hollywood Brown. The Poke G, I would go with Dallas Goddard. Throw in your fantasy or gambling questions, here to answer all of them. Jason S18, thank you for your support. Jason asks Waller or Robinson. Jason, I would go with Brian Robinson. If you've got questions, we've got answers. Matthew asks Pacheco or McKinnon. Matthew, I would go with Jerick McKinnon. I would go with Jerick McKinnon. PKRZ asks Purdy or Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Aaron Rodgers. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Make sure you're following us, answering all of your fantasy and gambling questions for NFL Week 17. Middle child, am I right? Asks Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson. Middle child, I'd go with Baker Mayfield. I would go with Baker Mayfield, believe it or not. User 6538 asks Miles Sanders or Cam Akers. User 65, I lean just slightly towards Cam Akers. Ross Gramley asks Cole Kmet or Higbee. I'll lean just slightly towards Cole Kmet, I think. I like both of them. I'll lean just slightly towards Cole Kmet. Trev Forever asks Herbert or White. Trev, I would go with Justin Herbert. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Answering a question that we're getting on both YouTube and on TikTok. Ryan asks Chiefs defense or Giants defense. I would go with the Giants defense. If you need your fantasy question answered, make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Hit that like button as well. Janovan asks Drake London or Jahan Dotson. I'll lean just slightly towards Jahan Dotson, just slightly. Appreciate all of you guys joining and supporting us. Michael asks Curtis Samuel or Hodgins. Michael, I would go with Hodgins. Make sure you're hitting that follow button at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Digity Dolls asks Gardner Minshew or Purdy. Digity Dolls, I'd go with Brock Purdy. Dylan Whaley asks Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram. Dylan, I would go with Evan Ingram. C Note for Life 1. Give me 2 non-PPR. Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, or Montgomery. I would go with Allen and Montgomery. Thank you, Trev. Thanks, Trev. Appreciate it. Dan asks Buffalo defense or Jacksonville defense. You got to go with the Jacksonville defense. Lazard or Dillon. Shanley, I would go with A.J. Dillon. I would only start Allen Lazard if you find out Christian Watson can't go because of his hip. If that's the case, I would shift to Allen Lazard, but I'd go with A.J. Dillon for now. TDB Jr. 2, Algier or Sanders. On that one, I'll lean just slightly towards Miles Sanders. Fro 13130, Zay Jones or Mike Evans. I'm going to lean towards Zay Jones. Mike Evans has just disappointed me too much lately. Rook 2, pick 3 to start, wide receiver, Kirk, Lazard, Olave, Evans, Devontae Smith. I'd go Christian Kirk, I'd go Olave, and I'd go Devontae Smith. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Dylan Whaley, I would go with Evan Ingram. V. Lope, Mike Evans, or Lazard. On that one, I lean slightly towards Evans. Porter, 98, Amari Cooper, or Garrett Wilson. I'll go with Garrett Wilson. Appreciate all you guys supporting us. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports. DJ Moore or Mike Williams. I would go with Mike Williams. Aaron Jones or Travis Etienne. Xander 218. I would go with Travis Etienne. Xander 218. I'd go Travis Etienne. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Joseph asks, pick 2, Algier, Jacobs, or Cam Akers. Joseph, I would go with Tyler Algier, and I'd go Cam Akers. Joseph, I'd go Algier and Cam Akers. C. Fort M asks Taysom Hill or Darren Waller. C. Fort M, I'd go Taysom Hill. That's Taysom Hill. Ryan Laskin asks Algier or Dylan. I'll lean just slightly towards Tyler Algier. Waddle or Godwin. Madden, I would go with Waddle. Eagles defense or Patriots defense. I would definitely go with the Eagles defense. No brainer for me. Life of Jamal, I'd go with the Eagles defense. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Just under 40 minutes left before 1 p.m. kickoff. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're following us. And, of course, throw in your questions for NFL Week 17. Arc2444 asks Kamara or Chubb. I'll lean just slightly towards Nick Chubb. Ryan asks Cam Akers or Walker. I'm going to go with Cam Akers. Dallo Arc asks Montgomery, Algier, Nick Chubb, pick 2. I'll go with Chubb and Algier. We just hit 600 subscribers on YouTube. Just hit 600 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for the support. We have now over 30,000 followers on TikTok, 600 subscribers on YouTube. You guys are absolutely amazing. Answering all of your questions right up until 1 p.m. kickoff. Jess Cruz, 221, asks, Allen or Goff? Jess, I'd go Jared Goff. I'd go Jared Goff. Sir Rico asks, Pickens or Hodgins? I would go with George Pickens. I'd go with George Pickens. Cody asks, Swift or Sanders? I would go with DeAndre Swift. Answering all of your NFL Week 17 questions, gambling, fantasy, any question you have, we've got an answer. King Pineapple 3 asks, Amari Cooper or Evan Ingram? I'm going to lean just slightly towards Amari Cooper. Cash Car is 32, asks Fournette or Stevenson. I would go with Ramondre Stevenson. I'd go with Ramondre Stevenson. Stephen McKay asks, pick two, Olave, Watson, Lockett, or Boyd. I'd go Watson and Lockett. Watson and Lockett. Dino V asks, Devontae Smith or Christian Kirk. Dino, I'd go with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Madden, I would go with Jared Goff. BCM Lifestyle, I would go with Devontae Smith. BCM Lifestyle, I'd go Devontae Smith. Drew 10, I would go with Montgomery. Drew 10, I'd go with Montgomery. White Sox 45, I'd go DeAndre Swift. White Sox 45, I'd go DeAndre Swift. Do I trust Davante Adams this week? Marine, I don't. I don't trust Davante Adams this week. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter, answering all of your fantasy questions for this big fantasy weekend, your championship weekend. Make sure you ask your question. Evan asks, Judy or Lazard? I would go with Lazard. Austin asks, Geno Smith or Purdy? Austin Knight, I would go with Brock Purdy. LW Ray asks Dotson or Walker. I would go with Walker. Raheem Mostert or Cordero Patterson. Middle, I would go with Cordero Patterson. Fields or Josh Allen. I would go with Justin Fields. Christian Kirk or DJ Moore. I would lean just slightly towards Christian Kirk. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. YouTube, we just hit 600 subscribers. On TikTok, we have 30,000. Make sure you're a part of this growing community. Hit that follow and subscribe button. BB King 8611. First of all, shout out to BB King. May he always rest in peace. Love BB King. TJ Hawkinson or Dallas Goedert. BB King 8611. I would go with TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson. Trev McCarthy asks, Superflex need two. Mike White, Lockett, Juju, Dotson, or Pacheco. I'll probably lean towards Tyler Lockett, Trev McCarthy. I'll lean towards Lockett over Pacheco. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. If you want my player prop bets, check out our Twitter account at SportsFumble or our Instagram account at ButtFumble Sports. Colby asks Moss or Patterson. Colby, I'm going to lean towards Zach Moss. Question in from YouTube. Dotson, Lazard, or Deontay Foreman at the flex? Answering the YouTube question, I'd go Deontay Foreman. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Joey asks Dobbins or Zonovan Knight. I would go with Zonovan Knight. I'd go Zonovan Knight. Jerry Jeudy or Drake London. It's your boy Beef. I would go with Drake London. It's your boy Beef. I'd go Drake London. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. Jackson Mata asks McKinnon or Robinson. I'm going to lean slightly towards Robinson. VR Eyes, pick two, please. Zay Jones, Watson. I would go with Watson, just slightly. Buffalo or Seattle defense. I would go with the Buffalo. I'll lean slightly towards the Buffalo defense. though I don't like it. I feel like there's a better defense you can find on the waiver wire. Brandon asks, start 3, Walker, Montgomery, Sanders, or McKinnon. So out of that group, I would sit Walker. I would sit Walker and start Montgomery, Sanders, and McKinnon. I appreciate all of the support you guys show us. Make sure you follow us at Fumble Sports. We have a half hour to go answering all of your fantasy questions. Make sure you throw them in the chat. Half hour to go before the 1 p.m. kickoff. The real Caleb Bradley asks, Jacobs, Pacheco, or Dobbins. The real Caleb Bradley, I'll lean just slightly towards J.K. Dobbins. Answering a fantasy question from YouTube, Gabe Davis, Sutton, or Dotson. I'll go with Gabe Davis. Answering that question from YouTube, Gabe Davis. 2 putt par, Chubb or Kamara. 2 putt par, I'll go Nick Chubb. Matty Herb 13, Waddle or Keenan Allen. Matty, I would go with Jalen Waddle. I'll go Jalen Waddle. Richie Ridgeway, I would go with George Kittle. Richie Ridgeway, I'd go George Kittle. Mark J asks, Kamara, Jacobs, Etienne, Algier, McKinnon. Pick 2. I would go with Etienne, and I would go with Algier. Etienne and Algier, I think. Buffalo defense or Patriots defense. Robert, I feel like there are better defenses on the waiver wire. I don't like either one of them. I guess I lean towards the Patriots, but not crazy about it. Appointed 21, I would go with DJ Chark. Appointed 21, I'd go DJ Chark. Vincent P or Vincent P, pick 2, please. Dylan, Algier, Dotson, or Foreman. I would go with Algier and Foreman. Algier and Foreman. Deanno Flintstone, please answer Knox or Njoku. I would go with Njoku. JM 93,850. I would go with DJ Chark. JM 93,850. I would go with DJ Chark. Under a half hour to go. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Throw in your questions. They can be game pick questions, fantasy questions. We're here for all of it. Zach Lynch 26 asks DJ Moore or Dotson. Zach Lynch, I'd go DJ Moore. Kenny asks, pick 3, Dotson, Waddle, Davis, Montgomery, or Rachaad White. Kenny, I would go with Waddle, Montgomery, and Davis. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. You sold Petey, I would go with Cole Kmet. I'd go Cole Kmet. Jam 3S27, I would go with Cam Akers. Jam 3S, I'd go with Cam Akers. Easter Chubb, I would go with Jared Goff. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Question that we just got in from YouTube, Sutton, Dotson, or Singletary. I'd go with Cortland Sutton. Mr. Solo, I would go with Romeo Dobbs. Thank you for your support. Joseph, I would go with Tyler Lockett. Mike asks, or Mike Addy, I would go with Bam Knight. Dylan H14, I would go with Cam Akers. Hair designed by John, I would go with McKinnon, and I'd go with Lazard. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Hippo Breath, I'd go with Watson. Just Max 49, I'd go with Cam Akers, just slightly. Just Max 49, I'd go with Cam Akers. Super Mario, I'd go Deontay Foreman. Dawson VX, I'd go Kenneth Walker III. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Hit that follow and subscribe button. YouTube question. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. I would go Pacheco, Sanders, or Bam Knight. Pick 1. I would go with Bam Knight. I'd lean towards Bam Knight out of that group, just slightly over Sanders. Hodgins or Josh Palmer? Another question from YouTube. I'd go Hodgins. Make sure you're hitting that follow button and that subscribe button. Saul Soto, I would go with Zach Moss. Saul Soto, I'd go with Zach Moss. You can tell I'm just doing a rapid fire right now. We have another 25 minutes left. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're subscribing, answering all of your NFL Week 17 questions. I'm just going to be doing rapid fire, so bear with me. Make sure you're following. I'm going to get to every question possible. JM34, I would go with Miles Sanders. JM34, I'd go with Miles Sanders. Dope, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I'd go DK Metcalf just barely. I don't like the matchup, but OMG, it's 7-1. I would go with Cam Akers and Moss. I'd go Cam Akers and Moss. CMG 2-3. I would go with Foreman and I would go with Pacheco. Foreman and Pacheco, CMG 2-3. Make sure you follow us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Check out my best bets of the day. They're on they're on Twitter at Sports Fumble, and on Instagram. My 2 best bets of the day. One of them involves a 4 p.m. game. One of them involves a Sunday night matchup. What's going to happen in that Sunday night game? Check out my best bets of the day. Check it out on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on Instagram at Fumble Sports. I also have a lot of player prop bets to get to as well. Make sure you're checking out our player prop bets as well. Dirk Diggler, 74-66. I would go with Teddy Bridgewater. Dirk Diggler, I would go with Teddy Bridgewater. If you want my player props, go check them out on our Instagram account at Fumble Sports. Gravy asks Aaron Jones, Montgomery, or Dillon. Pick one. I would go with Aaron Jones, Gravy. Sorry, it's Gavy. I'm getting that wrong. Gavy, I would go with Aaron Jones. Question from YouTube. I would go with Jared Goff over Trevor Lawrence. To answer a question from YouTube, I would go with Jared Goff over Trevor Lawrence. Colin asks, K9, Swift, Algier, or Akers, rank them. I would go with Swift 1, Akers 2, Algier 3, Kenneth Walker the third 4. Skunk Big 4G, I would go with Terry McLaurin. Check out some of our player prop bets on Instagram to give away just some of them. I like Tom Brady throwing an interception today. Tom Brady over half an interception is a player prop bet I like. I'm getting that at even money. T Frank 8 asks, pick 2. Cooks, Dotson, Myers, or Algier. T Frank 8, I would go with Myers and Algier. Miles and Algier. Luca asks, Jags defense or 49ers defense. I would go with the 49ers defense. Luca, I would go with the 49ers defense. Craig Bourne 60 asks, pick 2. McKinnon, Connor, Akers, Kamara. Craig, I would go with McKinnon and Akers. McKinnon and Akers, Craig Bourne 60. Another player prop bet that I really like today is Deontay Foreman over 60.5 total rushing yards. Deontay Foreman over 60.5 total rushing yards is a player prop bet that I like. If you want my best bets of the day, go check out our Twitter account at Sports Fumble and our Instagram account at Fumble Sports. Johnny Buckets 07 asks, Fields or Burrow? Johnny Buckets, I would go Justin Fields. Justin Fields. Only about 22 minutes left before the 1 p.m. kickoff. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're throwing in your fantasy questions. Jack, thank you so much, Trip, for the crown. Thank you so much. Jack asks, Purdy or Mike White? Jack, I would go with Brock Purdy. I'd go with Brock Purdy. Average Guy, 1203, I would go with Jerick McKinnon. Average Guy, 1203, I'd go Jerick McKinnon. JJ Mayfi, I would go with Najee Harris and A.J. Dillon. Najee Harris and A.J. Dillon. Jakey Bakey, I would go with Cole Kmet. Jakey Bakey, I would go with Cole Kmet. Mel 626, I would go with Teddy Bridgewater. Mel626, I would go with Teddy Bridgewater. Another player prop bet that I really like today is Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'm only getting that at minus 210, but I love that bet. Jared Goff over Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Paul asks Cam Akers or A.J. Dillon. Paul, I would go with Cam Akers. Paul, I would go with Cam Akers. iRod 13, I would go with ETN, Dalvin Cook, and Christian McCaffrey. ETN, Dalvin Cook, and Christian McCaffrey, iRod. Andy Labs, I would go with Jacoby Myers. Answering questions from YouTube as well. Chark, Lazard, Dotson, Ayuk for the flex. I would go with DJ Chark. I'd go DJ Chark. Montgomery, Stevenson, Bam Knight, pick one. I'll lean just slightly towards Ramondre Stevenson. Cam Akers, Montgomery, or McKinnon. I would go with Cam Akers. Matthew 831, I would go with Chuba Hubbard. I'd go with McKinnon. Matthew 831, I'd go Jerick McKinnon. Tyler, appreciate your support. Sick as hell right now, but still got a question. I'd go Tyler Algier. Tyler, hope you feel better. Sorry your year is off to such a tough start. Tyler, hope you're going to get better soon. I'd go with Tyler Algier, Tyler. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. My two best bets of the day. Vikings, Packers over 46.5 points after I buy the 1.5, and Steelers plus 3.5 after I buy the 1.5. The ButtFumble Sports best bets of the day are Vikings, Packers over after you buy the 1.5, and Steelers to cover after you buy a 1.5. If you want more of my bets, make sure you check out our channels at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at SportsFumble on Twitter. B. James MC, McLaurin or Watson with Dobbins. I would lean towards the Watson-Dobbins, okay? B. James MC, I would go with the Watson-Dobbins situation. Christian St. Pierre, I would go with Jerick McKinnon. Christian St. Pierre, I'd go Jerick McKinnon. Zach Williams, I'd go with Kirk Cousins. Jay Rivera, I would go with Jared Goff. I'd go with Jared Goff. Thank you guys so much for the support you guys are showing us. Ben Hodges, 74. I would go with Nick Chubb just barely. Ben Hodges, 74. Nick Chubb just barely. Again, my two best bets of the day are Vikings Packers over and Steelers to cover. Both of those, I'm buying the 1.5. Question coming in from YouTube. Geno, Purdy, or Minshew? I would go with Brock Purdy. Another question from YouTube. Pick two. DK, T. Higgins, Wilson, or Devontae Smith? I'd go T. Higgins and Garrett Wilson. Higgins or Wilson? I don't know. Asks McLaurin, Chubb, Dortch, Swift for flex. Pick one. I'd go DeAndre Swift. Notorious Bad Brad. I'd go with Mike Williams. Notorious Bad Brad. Answering all of your fantasy questions. Just over 15 minutes remaining before the 1 p.m. games kick off. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Hit that follow button, and of course subscribe at ButtFumble Sports. Dale99 asks Ramondre Stevenson or Algier. Dale, I'm going to lean just slightly towards Ramondre Stevenson. If you want my game picks, go check out our videos at ButtFumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. My two best bets of the day are Vikings and Packers over 46.5 points and Steelers plus 3.5. Fournette or McKinnon, I'd go McKinnon. Elijah Moore or Zach Moss, I'll lean just slightly towards Zach Moss. Big Ace 88, I'm going to lean slightly towards McKinnon. Brandon Chen, I would go Cam Akers. I'd go Cam Akers. Jay asks Goff or Fields, I'd go Jared Goff. Another player prop bet that I really like today is Travis Etienne over 89.5 rushing plus receiving yards. That's Travis Etienne over 89.5 rushing plus receiving yards. I'm getting that at minus 115. Appreciate all of you joining us. Humble Rooster, I'd go A.J. Dillon. Humble Rooster, I'd go A.J. Dillon. Patel 535, I'd go Miles Sanders. Patel 535, I'd go Miles Sanders. Wyatt Conyers, I'd go with Brian Robinson just because the injury status. I would go with Brian Robinson, Wyatt. Tyler, I would go with Cam Akers. Tyler, I would go with Cam Akers over Najee Harris. Jack, I would go with Jerick McKinnon because I'm worried about Christian Watson. I'd go Jerick McKinnon. 15 minutes left before kickoff. 15 minutes left before kickoff. George Palace 1, I'd go DJ Chark. George Palace 1, I'd go DJ Chark. Another player prop bet that I like today is Dalvin Cook, anytime touchdown. Dalvin Cook, anytime touchdown is a player prop bet that I like today. Driftless, I would go with George Kittle. Driftless, I'd go with George Kittle. J, 2112, I'd go with Pat Freiermuth. J, 2112, I'd go Pat Freiermuth. I would go with Jared Goff. If you have Jared Goff today, I don't care who the other quarterback is. Jared Goff is my favorite quarterback today. Jared Goff is a must start today. I don't care who the other quarterback is. Jared Goff is a must start today. Slim Jimmy 33. I lean just slightly towards Watson, but I'm worried about the injury report, so you might want to go with Amari Cooper. Wilson or Robinson. I'll lean just slightly towards Robinson. Some tacos, that's Robinson. Earl, I would go with Olave. Earl, I'd go with Olave. Dimo Lucic, I would go with J.K. Dobbins. Dime, I'd go with Dobbins. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumble Sports. Another player prop bet that I like today is Daniel Jones, anytime touchdown. I'm getting that at plus 210. He has 4 rushing touchdowns at home this year, 2 in his last 3 games. Dylan, Foreman, or Moss. I lean towards Deontay Foreman, the water boy. I'd go with Deontay Foreman, the water boy. Brady Hype, I'd go with Amari Cooper. Brady Hype, I'd go with Amari Cooper. Hayden 69, I would go with Jamal Williams. Hayden 69, I'd go with Jamal Williams. Vex got skills, I'd go with Myers. Vex got skills, I'd go with Myers. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Hit that follow and subscribe button. The Pope, I would go with Chubb. The Pope 501, I'd go with Nick Chubb. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Trip 6594, I would go with Cam Akers. I would go with Cam Akers 6594, Trip 6594, and I would go with the Giants defense. Akers and the Giants defense. Just 12 minutes left to go. Answering all of your questions. Question in from YouTube. Dylan, Juju, Olave, or Lazard. I lean just slightly towards A.J. Dillon. Slightly towards A.J. Dillon. Make sure you're following and subscribing. I like Tyler Lockett today, Brianna, or Brian A. I can't tell which it is. Cooks or Hollywood Brown. I would go with Cooks. Saucy Jubilee. I'd go with Cooks. Dotson or Juju. Damon, I would lean just slightly towards Dotson. Manuel, I would go with Moss. Manuel, I would go with Moss. The Killer Boy, I would go with Miles Sanders. The Boy, I'd go Miles Sanders. Kyle Barbs, I lean towards Cortland's, Kyle Barbs, I'd go with Deontay Johnson. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow and subscribe button. Sam asks, Cooper or Waddle? Sam, I would go with Waddle. Sam, Serrata, I'd go with Waddle. Jamie Jr., I would go with Miles Sanders. Jamie Jr., I'd go Miles Sanders. Just 12 minutes left, answering as many questions as I can in the final minutes that we have. Make sure you're following and subscribing, handing out more fantasy and game picks as well. My 2 best bets of the day are Vikings Packers over 46.5 points. I'm getting that at minus 140, and Steelers plus 3.5. I'm also getting that at minus 140. Make sure you're following and subscribing at ButtFumble Sports. Dotson or Adams, I'm going Dotson. Lawrence or Minshew, I'm going Trevor Lawrence, Jeremy. Jorge, I would go with Tyler Algier. Coastal Shores Group, I would go with Miles Sanders. Leroy Jenkins, 41, I'd go Dalvin Cook. Speedy, 530, I'd go Swift. I heart the Cerulus, I'd go with Swift and White. Swift and White, I heart. Dream Furthest, I go DeAndre Swift. Dream Furthest, I go DeAndre Swift. D. Clark, 193, I would go with Mike Evans. And I would go with Tyler Algier. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow and subscribe button. Only 10 minutes left. Only 10 minutes left. Another player prop bet that I like today is Tyler Algier. Over 14.5 rushing attempts. That's Tyler Algier over 14.5 rushing attempts. If you want all of my player prop bets, go check out our Instagram account at ButtFumbleSports or our Twitter account at SportsFumble. Coastal Shores Group, I'd go Miles Sanders. Nick Myers, I'd go Watson. Tad Cuddy, I'd go with Cam Akers. Ebahena 1-5, I'd go Zay Jones. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumbleSports. Mel 626, I would go with Foreman. Mel 626, I would go with Foreman. Make sure you're following and subscribing. To those on YouTube, there's a question we have, Lockett, Watson, or McKinnon. I lean slightly towards Watson, but I'm a little worried about the health status, so you might want to think about McKinnon instead. Make sure you're following us. Hit that follow and subscribe button. 9 minutes left before kickoff. 9 minutes before fantasy football playoffs get underway. Make sure you're following us. Cobblefish 01, I'd go with Algier. Cobblefish 01, I'd go with Algier. Alyssa's husband, I'd go Washington defense. Alyssa's husband, I'd go Washington defense. Key Crusher, I'd go Aaron Rodgers. Key Crusher, I'd go Aaron Rodgers. Tiff Pet, I'd go Daniel Jones. Tiff Pet, I'd go Daniel Jones. Cameron PF, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Cameron PF, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Mish Raid 24, I'd go Algier. Mish Raid 24, I'd go Algier. CL Zeke, I'd go Alvin Kamara. TampaBayRays.com, I would go with Bam Knight, and I would go with J.K. Dobbins. Knight and Dobbins, TampaBayRays.com. B. Smits 22, I lean just slightly towards Pittman, I think. B. Spitz, I'd go Pittman. Real AJ, I'd go Thielen. Real AJ, I'd go Thielen. Make sure you're hitting that follow and subscribe button. Just 8 minutes left before kickoff. 8 minutes left. We've been doing 3 straight hours of talking fantasy and gambling, trying to answer all of your fantasy questions. Lazard or McLaurin, I'd go McLaurin. I'd lean towards McLaurin just slightly. Trey Gossett, whatever it is. Trey Gossett, I'd go Cam Akers. I'd go Cam Akers, Trey. Make sure you're following and subscribing at ButtFumbleSports. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Cooks or Dortch, I'd go Cooks. Dotson or Gabe Davis, I'd go Gabe Davis, Brandon. Should I start Lockett or DJ Moore? I'd start DJ Moore, I think. It's a toss-up. I want to say Lockett, but the Jets' defense is better. I'd go DJ Moore. Alien Slick, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Alien Slick, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Pierre, I'd go Chark and Algier. Chark and Algier, Pierre. Chark and Algier. Zach Newman, I'd go Cam Akers. Zach Newman, I'd go Cam Akers. Make sure you're following us at ButtFumbleSports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Hit that follow and subscribe button. Appreciate all of you joining us. Just 7 minutes left, answering as many questions as I can. Josh Hotchenberg, I would go with Gabe Davis. Josh, I'd go with Gabe Davis over London. Josh, that's Gabe Davis. Watson, Purdy, or Burrow. Phillips, I'd go with Joe Burrow. Phillips, I'd go Joe Burrow. Hudson, Cam Akers, or Josh Jacobs. Hudson, I would go with Cam Akers. I would go with Cam Akers. W Diamond, I would go with Njoku. W Diamond, I'd go Njoku. CA Gam, Team CA Gam. I would go with Cam Akers and Aaron Jones. Cam Akers and Aaron Jones, Team McGam, whatever that is. I Juke 24, Ramondre Stevenson. I Juke 24, I'd go Ramondre Stevenson. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribing. Hit that follow button. Marcus Walker 3, I'd go with Mike Williams. Marcus Walker 3, I'd go with Mike Williams. Caden CC3, I'd go Njoku. Caden CC3, I'd go Njoku. Grayson, I would go with Amari Cooper, Evans, and Dotson. Grayson, I would go with Dotson, Evans, and Cooper. GB Trey, I'd go with Brown. GB Trey, I'd go with Brown. Anthony Jr., I would go with Evan Ingram. Anthony Jr., I'd go with Ingram. Fitness God Dewey, I'd go with Zay Jones. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Make sure you're following and hitting that subscribe button at Fumble Sports. If you want all of our player prop bets, go check them out on Instagram. One player prop bet that I like, Zonovan Knight, over 59.5 rushing yards. That's Zonovan Knight, over 59.5 rushing yards. Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins, I'd go Justin Fields. Thank you, Busted. Romeo Doubs or Richie James. Adam, I'd go Romeo Doubs. Phil, I'd go Deontay Foreman. Miles, I would go with Ramondre Stevenson. Brandon, I would go with Amari Cooper. Brandon W83, I'd go Amari Cooper. Austin VB3, I would go with Kirk Cousins. I'd go with Kirk Cousins. Kazi 055, I'd go with Aaron Jones. Kazi 55, I'd go with Aaron Jones. Jesse James Spencer, I'd go Zay Jones. 4 minutes left, guys. 4 minutes left before kickoff. Carlos P 701, I would go with Deontay Foreman, and I would go with Kamara. Foreman and Kamara. Hawk 365, I would go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Hawk 365, I'd go Donovan Peoples-Jones. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. Dotson or Chark, I'd go Chark. I would start Chark. DJ Moore or Zay Jones, I'll lean just slightly towards Zay Jones. Andrews or Goddard, I would start Goddard. Jacoby Myers or Amari Cooper, I'll lean just slightly towards starting Jacoby Myers, Chase. I'd start Jacoby Myers. 3 minutes left, guys. Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, I'll lean just slightly towards Justin Herbert. Eagles defense or Giants defense, I'm going Giants defense. Zach Moss or Mostert, King SeaWorld, I'd go Zach Moss. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Teddy, over under 5.5 rushing yards, I take the over. I think he scrambles at least once for you. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. 2 minutes left to go, answering all of your questions. We've been going for 3 hours straight. I saw one here. Budwoods 10, I would go with the Chiefs defense. Budwoods 10, I'd go with the Chiefs defense. Budwoods 10, Chiefs defense. Josie RR, Kenneth Walker III is who I'd start. Texas Trucker 8, Zay Jones. Nathan Balloff, I'd go with Gardner Minshew. Make sure you're following us at Fumble Sports. All in the Truth, I'd go with Tyler Algier. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. 2 minutes left. Just 2 minutes left. A player prop bet that I like today is Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Buffalo Snow 1, I'd go Zay Jones. Budwoods 10, I'd go Devontae Smith. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Austin, 29,000. I'd go Waddle. Austin, 29,000. I'd go Waddle. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. Dirty Bird, I'd go DeAndre Swift. Dirty Bird, I'd go DeAndre Swift. 1 minute left, last chance. McKinnon, Mark J, 2288. I'd go McKinnon. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports. We have just done 3 straight, non-stop hours of talking NFL Week 17, game picks, total plays, player prop bets, and of course, all of your fantasy questions. It has been an exhausting 3 hours, but this was so much fun. Make sure you're following us. Go check out our best bets, our player prop bets at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. My 2 best bets of the day, Minnesota and Green Bay over 46.5 points. I'm getting that at -140, and Steelers plus 3.5. I'm getting that at -140. Make sure you're following us for all of our bets, game picks, player prop bets, and everything. 3 hours of non-stop action. Appreciate all of you guys joining us, supporting us, following us. We went over 600 subscribers on YouTube during this live session. We went over 30,000 followers on TikTok during this live session. What an unbelievable way to end our fantasy football year. Butt Fumble Sports has only been a company since the first game of the NFL season. We started on that first Thursday between the Rams and the Bills, and now 4 months later, 30,000 followers on TikTok, 600 subscribers on YouTube. I hope you're one of them. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We so appreciate your support. If you continue to have questions and you want me to get to them for the late games, hit us up. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Butt Fumble Sports. If you follow us and then DM me, I will continue to answer questions. So if you have questions for the 4 p.m. games or later, I will continue to answer them, not on a TikTok Live or YouTube, but on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Butt Fumble Sports. Follow us, them DM us. I will answer all of your fantasy questions there. So follow and subscribe at YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. This has been an unbelievable 3 hours we've been with you. Thank you so much. I just want to thank, first and foremost, I want to thank all of the followers, all the subscribers, this Butt Fumble Sports community. Without you, we would be nothing. Thank you so much. And of course, as always, a big shout out to Bleece, a big shout out to the entire Butt Fumble Sports team. Without you guys, you know who you are. We wouldn't be able to do this. I am so grateful. You guys don't know what you guys mean to me, what you mean to the company. I cannot wait for this year, 2023. By the end of this year, I'm going to put it out right now, we're going to have over 100,000 followers on TikTok. By the end of 2023, we're going to have over 100,000 followers on TikTok. I've lost my voice after going 3 hours on TikTok Live and YouTube, but I promise you, 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe. That way you know every time we go live, wherever we are, we're going to give you answers to your fantasy, gambling, sports questions all the time. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribing. And I hope you have a wonderful 2023 and a great NFL Week 17. If you have questions, make sure you're following and hitting us up, DMing us on Instagram at Butt Fumble Sports. Thank you so much. Have a blessed 2023. We'll see you later.